finds himself missing Nightingale's presence. He decides to call her, but he gets no response from her. A mischievous glint flickers in his eyes as he considers doing something unthinkable. Yep, you guessed it right. He is planning to munch on the snacks Nightingale has stashed in her drawer. But before he can act on his thought, the lady herself appears and firmly warns him not to lay a finger on her dried fish. Prince then asks her why she's feeling a bit let down lately, and she responds that she was just following his earlier directive not to bother him. The prince apologizes, admitting he's been busy lately, and he's grateful she's always there to watch over him. He opens the drawer again, revealing a specially crafted gun. He explains he wanted to give it to her earlier, but it took longer than expected to carve the patterns on this beauty. This revolver is completely different and far superior to anything they've made before. Nightingale eagerly takes it. She's momentarily speechless, stammering out a thanks, then happily requests if he can teach her how to use the revolver. Once they step outside, Nightingale immediately starts her shooting practice. Surprisingly, she hits the target dead on with her first try, which is impressive considering poor Knight Carter hadn't hit a single bullseye after days of training. She asks if she did better, and the prince nods approvingly, mentioning she'll move on to a training simulation next. Nightingale is clueless about what's next, so our hero explains that hanging over the targets are stones of divine judgment, and she needs to take them down in the shortest time possible while she is exposed to their effects. After understanding her task, she prepares herself. Just before she dives in, the prince stops her and tells her to pull the trigger, adding with a grin, "Remember to shout, it's high noon." Cheekily, she turns around and asks if it's a suggestion or an order. Nevertheless, she gets ready. Memories of past heroics flood her mind when Wendy had told her that she's already by the prince's side. With a deep breath, she begins striking those divine stones of judgment, hitting each one with precision, reminding herself that she's his shield and will always stand by his side. The big day finally arrives, and the entire town gathers to watch the play they've been training for. The best part? Well, it's free for everyone. The prince has even invited the merchant Lady Margaret. Among the crowd is another merchant, Hogg, who finds the food delicious and otherworldly. Meanwhile, Fjord's merchant Marlon is super impressed by the quality and material of the cups, and he's ready to buy a few for himself. As the merchants continue their business talk, Lady Margaret apologizes on their behalf. She says that merchants are just laymen who can't stop talking about money and is sorry they're taking up his time. Meanwhile, up in the sky, Lightning is having a blast munching on popcorn, while Maggie looks annoyed that she's hogging it all for herself. Down on the ground, the prince is surprised that Lightning didn't recognize Margaret, even though she's been like a mother figure to her. Margaret explains they parted ways when she was very young, so it's no wonder she doesn't remember, and she only wants to reconnect back with her naturally. Margaret then asks about this snack called popcorn, and wonders if it's also a royal family snack. Our hero nods yes, but in reality, he's had Nana's help in making these popcorns from Sister Leaf's special corn. He can't imagine watching a show without munching on them. Well, Margaret isn't fully convinced yet, because she has lived in the king's city before. Without being rude, she asks him to hold off on flattering her, and then asks about his closest friend in the city. It turns out Prince Roland didn't have one, as he was just a flirtatious guy, and his closest companion was his magical hand, Yorko, which he used to grope every woman around the castle. Margaret starts chuckling and points out that she's also heard he used to be quite the ladies' man in the castle. Poor Roland feels a bit embarrassed that he let slip something awkward to her. He then changes the topic and urges everyone to focus on the play, and thus begins the story of Girl Cinderella, with Lady Irene, wife of Ferlin Eltec, playing the role of Cinderella. Another standout in the cast is May, known as the Star of the West, who looks stunning on stage. It doesn't take Margaret long to realize who she is, and she's totally amazed to see her there. Prince Roland tells her to watch quietly, but Margaret is so excited she can't help but sing May's praises loudly. It seems our hero hadn't anticipated Lady Irene would bring such a renowned friend to perform here in the border town. As the show continues, May's acting looks incredibly realistic. When she pushes Cinderella to the ground, the shove is so lifelike and powerful that everyone in the crowd becomes genuinely concerned. Even Prince Roland feels like that push was personal. As the play continues once again, the whole crowd is totally hooked, and even Lady Irene can't help but notice how her friend has everyone's attention. During the break, someone in the audience comments that the performance was so realistic they got a bit scared, encouraging Lady Irene to keep up the great work. She agrees enthusiastically, and this time Irene is determined to win everyone over with her own skills. When the play resumes, Lightning also has a little role of her own, playing a cute witch. Let's skip the play details, but by the end of this scene, it's Sister Irene who steals the show. May, usually flawless in her acting, finds herself overshadowed this time by Irene's outstanding performance. Well, it looks like seeing her friend win has made her even sadder. This guy Ferlin has been the target of countless women in Longsong Fortress, and in the end, he chose Irene. Now she can't help but cry her eyes out over this love triangle drama. As she walks off the stage, she notices Knight Carter holding a bouquet of flowers. He introduces himself as Chief Knight Carter Lannis, the prince's knight, and he gives her props for her incredible performance. Not one to waste time, he immediately invites her for a drink, leaving her blushing and feeling quite happy inside. The scene shifts to Longsong Fortress, where the soldiers from Grey Castle have arrived. Upon seeing their familiar flag fluttering, the ambassador starts to lose his cool. Below, the knight introduces himself as Leman Hawes, King Timothy's messenger, and he has brought a message from the king's city. He requests to lower the drawbridge to allow them entry. One of the knights quickly brings the permit, and the ambassador quickly takes a look at it, only to find out that this is indeed stamped with Timothy's emblem. Petrov quickly realizes that he can't turn down the new king's messenger like that, or he will be picking up a needless fight with the king's city of Grey Castle. With that in mind, he tells his soldier to grab 3 quick horses and make a dash for Border Town, and deliver the message to Roland that Timothy's crew is on the doorstep. Imagine if they had something like Skype to communicate. It would be quite a sight to see all the kings and princes having a heated conference call, probably more toxic than a Call of Duty lobby. Once the soldier dashes off, Petrov hopes Prince Roland gets the news soon. With the enemy's messenger group numbering less than 50, they don't pose much of a threat. All Petrov can do now is let them inside, and as the gate lowers, those knights below exude an ominous energy, and I'm pretty sure that shit is about to get real. Meanwhile, back in Border Town, it seems Prince Roland has finally brought the first bathtub into this world. Everyone bombards him with questions, and he patiently explains everything. When the tap is turned, water flows out, leaving everyone amazed and curious. They are curious to know if they can drink it, and from where it is coming. Prince Roland explains it's not safe to drink directly without boiling first, and Anna then elaborates on the principle of a siphon, showing how they can transfer water using this basic method. They've positioned a tank of this water at a higher elevation to ensure it reaches everyone's homes effectively. As Prince Roland gets caught up teaching everyone the nerdy ins and outs, our not-so-sophisticated lady just couldn't resist poking at the tap to see what would happen. As you can imagine, water starts gushing out like rain from the steel pipe above. Prince Roland quickly steps in to give a quick rundown on how the shower head works. Meanwhile, Sister Lily jumps in with a bit of sass, asking if the prince spent his whole week at the castle just to make his bathing more comfy. She's not shy about pointing out how nobles love their comforts, and he seems no different. Lady Scroll shuts Lily down with a quick, shush. But Prince Roland stays cool, explaining that chasing comfort drives human progress, and he's no stranger to that. Despite his casual yet clever response, Lily just sneers and turns her head away. Later on, when the prince is alone, Lady Scroll swings by to apologize for Lily's antics. But our boy just shrugs it off, saying it's no big deal. Well, since we haven't heard much about Sister Lily until now, Lady Scroll decides to reveal how she's been deceived many times and now finds it hard to trust others. Lady Scroll starts off telling us how she sniffed out Sister Lily using her magic power sensing abilities, right in one of the shelters in Redwater City. Basically, in the past, Lady Scroll would travel through towns pretending to be the wife of a noble interested in adopting a child, all the while carefully observing to find awakened sisters like Lily. However, when she tried to adopt Lily, she was refused by the shelter owner, who insisted on waiting until the children reached adulthood before they could be adopted. This refusal raised red flags, prompting Nightingale to dig into the orphanage's finances. Turns out, over the past decade, 3 witches were handed off to the church. The good-looking ones got dolled up and sold to nobles, while the others were left to die in the forest behind the shelter. When they grilled the shelter owner, it turns out he wasn't running the shelter for the cash. He got a sick thrill from controlling and even killing the girls. That is when their leader Kara, understandably furious, took justice into her own hands and killed that man. When they tried to invite the girls into the association, many of them looked at the association members with hatred. It was as if they were feeling robbed of a chance to be adopted by nobles. Lily was no different until Kara showed the bodies of their friends who were supposed to have been adopted, now dead in the woods behind the shelter. The sight was so overwhelming that Lily vomited and passed out in Wendy's arms. When she woke up, she seemed emotionally numb, like a doll. Under Wendy's nurturing care, Lily gradually recovered, but her experience left her with a deep-seated resentment towards nobles, which might explain her sometimes harsh behavior towards our hero. The prince starts feeling sorry for Lily, realizing she still manages to smile despite everything she's been through. Then, Lady Scroll pops the question, and our hero gives her the go-ahead to ask. Right on cue, Sister Scroll calls out to Nightingale, who promptly shows up from the shadows. By now, Roland is clueless about what these ladies are actually plotting. Lady Scroll finally asks the prince a rather awkward question, which is that since he's planning to marry a witch, does he know that witches can't get pregnant? The prince finds this a bit blunt, and asks if it's confirmed or just speculation. Lady Scroll sadly confirms that it's a harsh truth, which is backed by history itself since there's no record of witches ever getting pregnant. Roland thinks of it like reproductive isolation. wondering if witches have evolved into a whole new species that can't mix genes with regular folks. But the prince shrugs it off for now, deciding to chew on that idea later. For him, his love for Anna isn't tied to whether she can have kids or not. He's more excited about setting up a political system that's fair and doesn't favor family connections. Plus, he sees the lack of kids as a perk. It stops powerful family clans from forming, which he thinks could bring witches and regular folks closer together to work as a team. Suddenly, Nightingale interrupts him and asks what's on his mind. He's caught off guard at first, but then assures her that his feelings haven't changed, and he's still up for marrying a witch. After Lady Scroll quietly leaves, Roland wonders aloud if she's happy or disappointed. Nightingale stays silent as well, leaving Roland to play it cool and assume everything's all right. Just then, someone slams the door open. Night Carter bursts in, reporting urgent news. Longsong Fortress has been taken over by a group from the King's City, and Mr. Petrov has been imprisoned. The prince is floored by the news, especially when Carter adds that there were only 50 knights who managed to seize the entire fortress. The next scene takes us at the Longsong Fortress's cathedral, and it's a total bloodbath of soldiers. The priest of the church is shocked to see these enemy knights, likely under the influence of those same pills. Knight Lehman states that it's all thanks to the church for helping them capture the entire Longsong. He raises his sword and, before striking down the priest, declares that with this speed, King Timothy will quickly unify Greycastle. With that, he cuts the man down. Another knight appears and informs Sir Lehman that they've found more pills in the basement, 4 boxes, totaling at least a few thousand pills. Sir Lehman is thrilled to hear this and mentions that about 1,000 soldiers will soon arrive here. With this many pills, they'll have more than enough before entering the battlefield against the border town. He's all pumped to see our prince's face when he wipes him out completely. Back at Border Town, Prince Roland waits anxiously for his scouts who were sent to assess the situation at Longsong Fortress. Right on cue, Nightingale perks up with a smile as she spots Lightning and Maggie returning, who deftly land in the office through the window. Lightning doesn't waste a single breath before announcing they've departed Longsong Fortress and are heading straight here with around 1,000 people. The prince is shocked to hear this, wondering how those 50 soldiers multiplied into 1,000. Maggie then reveals that only 6 of them are on horseback. The rest are on foot. She further explains they're dressed plainly, many without armor, and their weapons are mostly spears, with a few swords mixed in. The prince perks up right away, figuring from the description that they're probably civilians or serfs in the army, so he's scratching his head wondering why Timothy would send in such cannon fodder. He wonders why Timothy hasn't learned anything from the border town's battle with Duke Ryan, where 200 knights couldn't even tickle the border town. Then it finally hits him like a thunderbolt, and the prince figures out that they're trying to plow through all that gunfire using the church's pills. He never doubted from the start that the church was supporting Timothy. If the border town has to face this army of thousands, he's pretty sure his first army will take a heavy blow. The prince then asks if those people were carrying the divine stone of judgments. Lightning says she didn't dare to get closer, but that little bird over there saw everything once she turned into a hawk. While Maggie's chowing down on cake, she responds that she didn't see any stones, but there's a chance they might be hidden in their clothes. The prince then tasks Nightingale to go with Maggie again alongside the river. When they encounter the passing ships, Nightingale should get close to them while hiding within her fog. Once she's close enough, she needs to see if they're holding any divine stones of judgment. Nightingale just climbed out the window, and they flew off. The prince, stuck behind, curses himself for not paying enough attention to Longsong Fortress and making the dumb move of taking all the soldiers to Border Town, leaving poor Ambassador Petrov defenseless. But Anna quickly tells him to save his worries and regrets for later because he still has to figure out how to deal with the approaching army of 1,000. Which will be here in 3 days. She gives him a tight hug and assures him that they won't leave his side, no matter what happens. Shortly after, we see the town gearing up for battle, and Nightingale has returned. The prince asks if she found anything, and she reports back that there were only a few of those divine judgment stones. Lightning then asks about those holes they're digging, and the prince explains they're for bunkers. Both ladies look puzzled, so he clarifies that walls will surround these holes, leaving a small window for soldiers to shoot bullets while staying safe inside. He wants to protect his soldiers from those crazed pill-induced people shooting spears, and only bunkers can offer perfect defense against them. He has also organized 20 groups, each handling 1 artillery piece, which is a 12-pound field gun with a range of over 1,000 meters. The girls are absolutely thrilled to hear this, because with these guns, they're practically unbeatable. The prince suggests the returning scout group grab a bite since they must be starving after their trip. Meanwhile, Nightingale tells Anna to stick close to Prince Roland during the battle because she has a special mission to handle, to which Anna agrees and tells her friend to leave this to her. In the next scene, we see soldiers marching down, led by the ruthless Knight Lehman, urging his party to hurry up. He remarks that if this were the King's City Knights, Roland's head would already be returned to King Timothy. His friend advises him to just chill, noting that without those pills, these people would still be untrained morons. He adds that as a knight who's trained since childhood, the pills feel like they've invalidated all those years of hard work, as even unarmed farmers can fight after taking them. Lehman counters by reminding his friend that those who take the pills suffer greatly once their effects wear off. Meanwhile, we also see Nightingale keeping a watchful eye on these people. And shortly after, they hit the brakes, and the knight announces to his captain that they've spotted Bordertown's troops. Lehman expresses amazement, noting he never expected Ambassador Petrov to notify Roland so quickly. He reveals he's heard rumors about Bordertown using long-range weapons in their battle with Duke Ryan. When those weapons fired, there was a bright flash and a big boom. He's pretty sure those big-wheeled things he sees are those weapons, but they look way bigger than what he heard. His buddy next to him just says they gotta hustle to dodge the constant firing. His friend nods, saying they've got 1,500 guys, and after popping those pills, they can sprint like racehorses, so this time they can wipe the Bordertown quite easily. That is when he catches Nightingale's chilling voice, which totally freaks him out. He spins around after hearing that ominous whisper, but there's nothing there. Even his friends swear he didn't hear a thing. Captain Lehman tells his friend Levin to take some people into the woods for a pincer attack. He rallies everyone up, and that's when Lady Echo shows up out of nowhere. She immediately mimics Vice Captain Levin's voice, ordering the soldiers to gulp down their pills and charge ahead. The soldiers get all fired up and immediately pop their pills. Lehman is stunned, wondering what the hell is going on. He asks Levin what the hell he did, and that's when Nightingale appears, her gun's barrel aimed straight at his head. With a single pull of the trigger, she scrambles his brain entirely. The confident captain finally tumbles off his horse, leaving his friend in shock. Meanwhile, the soldiers just keep marching forward like nothing happened to their captain. Levin gags at the gruesome sight, while he also hears someone mimic his voice and order the brainwashed soldiers to take over Bordertown. When he realizes there's a witch mimicking his voice, it's already too late. Everyone is marching forward, ignoring his attempts to halt them. Some soldiers even try to attack him, but he quickly deals with them in anger, dead set on finding these witches and tearing out their throats with his bare hands. Meanwhile, back in Bordertown, our soldiers start blasting those mindless folks with cannonballs, scattering them like pinballs. Those who manage to get close to the bunkers face gunfire, bringing down them for good. Our soldiers are freaking out to see these damn people running super fast even after losing their limbs. Captain Brian finally understands why the prince warned them that these people are more like demonic beasts than humans. The soldiers reveal that the mindless people are closing in. Brian orders everyone to aim and start firing. Once they do, the bullets find their marks right on target, and the soldiers keep firing relentlessly without flinching. Captain Thin Mustache reloads his gun and suddenly spots a mindless knight climbing up the bunker. He gladly aims and shoots the monster right in the head. Suddenly, a soldier is left staring outside, but the captain yells at him to get down quick because the mindless people are throwing spears at lightning speed. However, the spears do nothing as they just hit the bunker wall and bounce to the ground. One soldier even jokes that he nearly shat his pants seeing those spears, but they turned out to be useless against the bunkers. But sadly, their assumptions are immediately proven wrong when a spear finds its mark right in one soldier's shoulder, causing him to collapse in pain. The captain is shocked and he quickly tells his soldiers to keep firing as he will look after him. The captain grabs the man's hand as he asks if he's going to die. The captain knows he is in bad condition, but not life-threatening. He can't pull out the spear recklessly, or it'll bleed more. He's confident Nana can save him and tells the soldier to hang on because he's not dying today. He assures the trembling soldier that once they finish fighting, they'll rush to Nana as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the mindless soldiers continue to charge at incredible speed across the littered ground strewn with corpses. They run between the fallen bodies with no regard. One of our elite soldiers quickly directs his comrades to adjust the cannons for a firing range of 300 meters and load the grape-shot rounds. With the command to fire, the giant cannonballs soar through the air, tearing through the ranks of the mindless attackers. Suddenly, one of those mindless guys snaps out of this pill's effect. He shakes in fear as he sees one of those giant balls stopping just short of his legs. He immediately bolts back, not wanting to risk getting flattened. After all, he's got 3 wives waiting for him at home. Damn, that's a lot of wives for a regular guy. Other soldiers decide to retreat too, finally realizing they were charging to their deaths for no good reason. Meanwhile, a stubborn soldier sticks to his guns instead of running. But let's be real. Who wouldn't rather be called a coward than take a 100-pound cannonball to the chest? The prince notices the enemies starting to scatter and disperse. He feels a pang of sorrow, knowing the pill might stop pain, but not fear. He's especially disgusted that Timothy used innocent civilians who aren't even soldiers. The guy with the spear in his shoulder has finally been brought to the infirmary, where Anna starts healing him right away. Meanwhile, back in the woods, Nightingale gets sniped by the enemy, but she disappears in the blink of an eye. The knight reports her escape, making Levin furious. He scolds his soldier for missing her when she was right in front of them. He orders his men to take the pill and bring her down as soon as she reappears. Meanwhile, roots and branches start creeping from above. Before the fools can react, Lady Leaf chokes them by their throats. Levin hasn't even finished cursing his rotten luck when Nightingale reappears. They lock eyes, and the man calls her a demon, but he soon notices that she's a witch. His last thought is about how beautiful she is before our girl pulls that trigger. The sun hadn't even gone down, and the battle was already wrapped up. Nightingale thought this one was way easier than the Duke's brawl. We only had 5 casualties, but they got treated in time. The prince immediately ordered not to kill anyone once those enemy soldiers' pill effects wore off. He assigned Lightning and Maggie to keep an eye on things, while the First Army was tasked with clearing the battlefield, and when the pill effects wore off, the civilians suffered massive side effects. The pursuit team gathered them up and pushed them towards the Longsong stronghold. The information extracted from the captured knights was used to systematically eliminate the remaining enemy forces at Longsong Fortress. They also secured Ambassador Petrov's release unharmed. Since he was part of one of the most influential families, the enemy knights did not dare to lay a finger on him. The prince also comes up with all new plans to ensure this mess never happens again. He decides to build up the army, lay down some roads, and bring universal education to Longsong Fortress. After sorting everything out, he decides to head back to Border Town, telling Ambassador Petrov to step up and not let him down again. The redhead nods in agreement. Petrov then asks what to do with the captives locked up in the bars. The prince tells him to set them free, knowing they won't last long anyway due to the pill's side effects. Once our hero wraps things up at Longsong Fortress, he sets sail back to Border Town. It's early morning, and Nightingale asks why he's up so early, telling him to catch more sleep. She then asks if he's worried about the civilians who took the pill. It seems her hunch is right on the mark. He is still bothered by the fact that they were all forced by Timothy. He points out that if they hadn't taken those damn pills and been controlled by others, they wouldn't have died needlessly in some strange place they did not even know. The woman tries to reassure him, saying it's not his fault. But he responds that even if it's not his fault, he couldn't stop them, and many more will be sacrificed in Timothy's fight for the throne. And the ones who are pulling the strings from behind and making those pills will have to pay for this bloodshed as well. She then asks if he plans to take down the church so it stops causing trouble, and everyone can live happily together with the witches. He grins and says that's exactly the plan. The next scene takes us out to sea, where we finally see Lady Ash after a long absence. Her eye-patch-wearing companion asks why she settled on Sleeping Island when there are larger islands like Crescent Moon Bay in the fjords. Not to mention, Sleeping Island sometimes submerges once the tides are high. Ash reminds him that not many people are interested in bumping into witches, and further explains that while Sleeping Island will eventually sink, that's why it's still empty despite being the 3rd largest in the fjords. But the man states that size doesn't matter if it's unlivable, to which she reminds him that since witches can tweak nature itself, she's not sweating it. They'll make it their own territory, away from the oppression of the church. She then asks the old man when was the last time he went to Sleeping Island. He says it was around a month ago when he brought a group of witches to plant a full field of pearl rice there. He recalls how playful and wonderful they all were. Suddenly, another sailor spots something nearby and alerts the captain. It looks like a giant boulder, but it's massive in size. The captain finds it hard to believe since the only landmass nearby is Sleeping Island. It doesn't make sense for there to be boulders out here. But the report insists his eyes aren't deceiving him. Meanwhile, Ash just smirks. By now, we know who's behind this. When the captain sees it for himself, he's utterly baffled. Sleeping Island has risen higher. Ash reminds him that this is what she meant about witches tinkering with nature. As we finally arrive over this island land, the witches rush out, with one particularly enthusiastic witch named Honey leading the charge. A girl with green eyes tells her to simmer down. Outside, the 2 witches suddenly notice something. When they turn around, the green-eyed girl quickly uses her abilities and recognizes that they're here. Ash is back. Once the ship reaches the shore, Sister Molly is the first to greet Lady Ash, and Our Lady promptly gives the little girl a pat on the head for her politeness. Meanwhile, Sailor Jack is amazed at how this place, once a hellhole, has turned into heaven. Molly then reveals they didn't raise the island like he thought. They just erected a wall around Sleeping Island. Ash then turns to the little girl and asks if she can help carry some goods. The girl gets excited and summons her water blob, which immediately picks up the boxes and starts walking with everyone else. Jack gives a middle finger to his nervous companions, who are scared of witches, reminding them that even if they combine their strength, they can't compare to Molly's little water blob. They invite Molly to join them, but the little girl bluntly declines. After finally reaching the heart of the island, Ash feels like she's back home at last. The captain is also completely amazed to see this transformation. He can't believe they've turned the island into a fortress. Inside, the place isn't flooded even during high tide, and the captain is pretty sure they're living below sea level right now. He points out 2 docks, one on the seafloor and another at the water's surface. He asks if both are usable, and Molly nods, saying the surface one works during high tide, while the submerged one is for low tide. That way, they can dock any ship, no matter the tide. While Ash admires the place, Molly gestures towards the north and points out Lady Tilly's palace. They decide to split up since there are more goods to unload from the ship. Molly tells her senior to go on ahead alone. With a face full of admiration, Molly smiles once again. Meanwhile, in the castle courtyard, someone's practicing magic. She's pretty skilled in combat abilities, and her magic looks downright terrifying, not gonna lie. Once she stands still after her stunt, Ash sneaks up behind and covers her friend's eyes with her hands. The girl gets annoyed at Ash's sneaky move. And well, this girl is none other than Tilly Wimbledon herself. The 2 ladies greet each other with a warm, welcome home, and clasp hands like they're in love. Ash then asks her friend if she just summoned a flash of lightning a moment ago, wondering if it was her new magic ability. Tilly clarifies that it wasn't a new magic ability, it actually came from a magic stone. She takes off her glove and offers it to Ash, explaining that the stone enhances magic power and produces a different effect as a byproduct. Excited, Ash immediately wears the glove embedded with the stone. Tilly encourages her to give it a try, instructing her to imagine pouring her magic into the stone and releasing it once she feels the stone can't hold any more magical power. Ash follows the instructions eagerly, focusing her magic into the gem. However, despite her efforts, the gem fails to release lightning. Tilly smiles at her friend's adorable attempt and mentions that, as extraordinary witches with their ability to detect magic, they both should pull that off quite easily compared to other sisters. She reveals that she has tried the glove with over 100 people, but only a few could grasp the concept quickly and successfully release lightning. Ash jokingly asks if Tilly is implying she's stupid, to which the girl proudly responds that she herself nailed it on her first try. So yeah, Ash is kinda stupid in comparison. Suddenly, Ash surprises Tilly by lunging at her and giving her a sweet and unexpected smooch on the lips. I have no idea where this is going, but let's roll with it and bear with me. After sharing a passionate kiss for a solid 5 panels, they finally release their lip lock, and Ash affectionately pats Tilly on the head. That is when the little one reluctantly reassures her that she's not stupid after all. Tilly turns around still pouting and reveals that she's gathered a few other witches here, each with different powers that have piqued her interest. Ash, not quite following, asks her to clarify. Tilly starts by questioning the nature of magic itself, explaining how witches' powers have always varied widely. Even if their abilities seem similar, the way they perceive and use magic can be quite different. But these mysterious stones can standardize magical abilities for anyone who uses them. For example, anyone can produce the same kind of lightning if they unleash their magic through this stone. She speculates that magic might be this all-powerful energy, and witches can tap into only one of its forms. These stones act like amplifiers for magical power, but can't generate magic by themselves. It's unclear if they're natural or man-made, but rumors suggest they were taken from lost ruins. These are the only ones she's found so far, but she's heard about an ancient ruin in the Seawind region of the eastern forest. She's itching to check it out herself. Lady Ash spills that before she sailed off from Clearwater Port. She heard that Garcia Wimbledon's Black Sail Fleet is on the move, heading for the Seawind region, which is Timothy's turf. She figures Garcia is aiming to use the speed of her fleet to hit their rear camps surprisingly. Tilly chimes in, worried that if they keep duking it out in Seawind, the whole place might go up in flames, and the church could swoop in on the chaos to take advantage. She's afraid that without Grey Castle united under one ruler, it'll end up like the Kingdom of Everwinter, swallowed whole by the church. Suddenly, Ash notices a striking resemblance between Tilly and Roland Wimbledon, which totally freaks her out. When her friend asks what's got her stunned, Ash blurts out that Tilly looks just like Roland Wimbledon right now. The caring sister perks up at the mention of her brother, and she immediately starts grilling Ash if she met Roland, and also asks her about her trip to the western region. Once Lady Ash spills the details of her journey, Tilly immediately asserts that the person Ash saw is not Roland Wimbledon anymore. He must have been replaced by someone else. With a serious tone, she suggests that if Roland is gathering a lot of witches, either the witches are controlling him or one of them has taken on his appearance, pretending to be him. She argues that the knowledge and intellect he's displaying couldn't have come from the court mentors. Tilly reveals that her brother was always terrible at lying, so it's impossible for him to hide his true nature. The current person can't be her stupid, annoying brother, but still, he is her brother. He's probably the least troublesome among their siblings, and expresses her intention to reach out to him. Ash mentions Maggie stayed behind but will arrive by month's end with news from Border Town. While they are waiting for Maggie, Tilly suggests they start their cleansing plan. She tells Ash they'll scrub the fjords clean of any church influence, making it a safe spot for witches. Ash playfully grabs her friend's hand, gives it a kiss, and promises to make her queen's wishes happen. The next scene shows our glamorous girl admiring herself in their newly made mirror. Others are also excited about it, giving all the credit to Soraya, who created a coating with mercury properties to make this crystal clear mirror that reflects perfectly. But Lady Lily, always confident, just shrugs, saying she's tired of seeing women always drawn to these kinds of things. That's when another sister reminds her that she's a woman too. Lily sighs and admits she is, but she points out her own lack of humanity's biggest weapons, gesturing at Wendy, who is standing nearby. Hummingbird finally understands what her friend is talking about, especially after seeing her own flat chest. While she hides behind Lily, she expresses her desire to have her hooters as huge as Sister Wendy's. Meanwhile, we also see Anna and the prince together again, this time tinkering with a microscope. The prince encourages Anna to give it a try. As Anna peers into the microscope, she's initially shocked to see something moving in the water, and a closer look reveals lots of little bugs swimming around. Everyone else gathers around, equally amazed to see what's going on. Maggie, on the other hand, is horrified and declares she won't drink water if it means consuming those creepy bugs she just saw. Lady Scroll questions if these creatures are real, prompting Prince to dive into a nerdy explanation about protists or unicellular organisms. He explains that they're living creatures, and there are even smaller ones like bacteria and viruses that also exist in water. Meanwhile, Nightingale, who always bunked her science classes, starts drinking the same contaminated water. She spits it out immediately when someone shouts that they're actually swallowing a bunch of bugs while drinking. As Sister Lily peers through the microscope, she's all curious about where Prince is picking up all these weird facts. With her ability to keep food fresh, she figures it might work on water too. But when she tries it out, bam. Her magic goes haywire, conjuring up microorganisms from nowhere that start chomping down on everything in the water, multiplying like crazy. Nightingale spots Lily's magic acting up, but before she can say anything, Lily's magic pulls a stunt, gathering into a blob that forms this weird critter. Prince takes a peek through the microscope and sees these bug-like things saluting Lily of all people. Everyone cheers Lily on for leveling up to the third evolved witch in their crew. The girl blushes and reluctantly admits that she thought she might as well understand the tiny ball theory to evolve her abilities, and it actually worked. However, she still can't wrap her head around the idea that everything in the world is made up of tiny balls. In her eyes, if steel or rock were made of tiny balls, they'd just scatter into a pile of dust. She's fascinated that the water has been purified by the little bugs Lily summoned. Prince then says the next step is individual testing. Only this way can they confirm how effective Lily's evolved ability really is. He wants to see how it performs over time, and how it reacts to the Divine Stone of Judgment. If it works out, it could be a big step forward for Bordertown's medical development. After 3 days of testing her ability, Prince sorted the purple bugs Lily summoned into 2 main groups, parents and replicas. She discovered that the parents are the primary microorganisms that appear first when she uses her magical power. As long as Lily keeps them fueled with magic, they can stick around indefinitely. But if she strays more than 5 meters away, poof, they disappear on her. And if they get caught within the range of that Divine Stone of Judgment thing, they scatter like confetti. Now the replicas are a different breed. They don't give a hoot about the Divine Stone of Judgment. They're like the rebels of the microbe world. They've got bits and pieces of the parents' characteristics and love to pick fights with other bad microorganisms to keep the food from spoiling. But here's the twist. They don't stick around as long because their assimilation skills seem tied to their size. Replicas can't replicate like parents do either. They only live for 1 day and will kick the bucket immediately once the water is boiled. Prince was jazzed, saying these bugs could chow down on all sorts of nasty germs and viruses, making them a real game changer for sanitation and sterilization. After luxuriating in a bath and feeling refreshed, Lily couldn't help but chuckle, giving props to Prince for inventing showers, even though she was the first to rib him about his noble comforts back then. Once she's out, she tells Sister Moon to hit the showers too, but the girl retaliates by smacking Lily with a pillow, accusing her of being a turncoat. Lily's baffled by her friend's sudden attack, prompting Moon to remind her about how she scoffed at the tiny ball theory yet still evolved a new ability. Lily sighs and tosses the pillow back, explaining that her evolution had zilch to do with tiny balls. Even Prince said you don't have to buy into it to evolve. Moon lights up with relief, asking timidly what she should do to understand her own ability, especially since her magnetic field powers are invisible and intangible. Lily shrugs, admitting she's clueless too. She only knows what her ability looks like and understands nothing about Prince's lectures on bacteria and such. Just thinking about it gives her a headache. Prince might as well write her an entire textbook. Moon tells her to quit complaining since she's already evolved. She is afraid that if things keep going at this rate, then she will be no help to the prince at all. Lily smiles and cryptically tells her to just take a shower to figure out her ability. Confused, Moon has no idea what her friend means. To which, Lily clarifies that she should shower with Anna, which embarrasses Moon even more. Shortly after, we see the blue head finally ending up showering with Anna. She remains shy and apologizes to her senior for only being able to ask her while bathing, given how busy Anna usually is. The senior then asks what her junior wants to talk about, and points out how everyone these days, including Maggie who recently joined, is eagerly learning. Moon feels inadequate compared to everyone else's hard work, to which the senior reassures her that everyone works hard in their own way, emphasizing that witches are dedicated to understanding themselves, their abilities, and their future paths. Anna shares how Prince helped guide her, showing her that her abilities aren't just for evil purposes, but can be useful too, which led to her evolution. She advises her junior not to force herself but to keep learning at her own pace, knowing she'll progress naturally. After their serious conversation, Anna starts rubbing shampoo into Moon's head, which leaves Moon feeling totally embarrassed and awkward, especially since they had never seen shampoo before. In an attempt to reciprocate, Moon decides to rub Anna's back as well. It seems like Lady May is intrigued by the scented soap in town, and Knight Carter explains that it's a popular item used by everyone in the castle. He praises its ability to remove oil and leave a refreshing rose scent. Lady May decides to sniff the soap herself and is pleasantly surprised by its pleasant fragrance. She marvels at how such a large scented soap can be so affordable compared to the expensive perfumes in the King's City. Carter reveals that they've managed to make it more cost-effective by using different materials instead of high-priced ones. He proceeds to buy several soap blocks for her, which causes Lady May to blush slightly. Knight Carter mentions the limit of 2 bars per person but offers to ask Prince for more if needed. After receiving the soap bars, Lady May looks a bit taken aback but eventually smiles and accepts them gladly. Lady May is deep in thought while Carter is out picking a gift for her. She's mulling over her past at Longsong Fortress, where she recognized and wanted in their theaters. But she couldn't stand the idea of working in a small town like a border town which is full of folks she thinks are illiterate. Suddenly, Carter returns with the gift, and when she opens it, there is a stunning mirror, which is showing her reflection, showing her how beautiful she looks. Even Carter compliments her beauty from her recent stage performance and smoothly asks if she'd like to hang out more. Seems like Carter's head over heels, and who knows, maybe she's feeling the same. Later that evening, after their pleasant time together, Lady May sits down to write a letter to Ambassador Petrov. In it, she explains she won't be heading back to support the Honeysuckle family at the Fortress Theater. Instead, she's decided to stick around Bordertown to delve deeper into her studies and broaden her horizons in her career as an actor. Seems like Carter is finally not alone anymore. Another day rolls around in Bordertown, where a new knight reports that the Second Army's training is going great. They'll be ready for target practice in about a week, and during this time, he is sure that there will be plenty of decommissioned flintlocks for everyone. Meanwhile, Prince is totally lost as to who this new knight is. He turns to his advisor, bewildered, only to find out it's none other than Carter Lannis. Carter, a bit embarrassed, admits he just trimmed his beard last night. He tells them not to tease him anymore, but Prince and his advisor can't help but chuckle, wondering aloud how chasing after girls could lead a man to such drastic measures. Back to business. The prince assures everyone will get enough ammo for training and tells the knight to have veterans from the First Army supervise. Once the prince is done giving his advisor a list of tasks, the knight suggests they could make good money selling the perfumes they make using sugarcane, because he has heard that it's high price in the King's City. The prince's eyes light up with the prospect of profit, seeing it as a great opportunity to hoard some fat cash. The advisor, still standing nearby, adds that the perfume is the King's City Alchemy Association's top-secret product, with only around 1,000 produced each year, and only a fraction of those being sold. Selling it outside the King's City could mean doubling the selling price. He explains that the scented soap he produced makes bath time a lot more fun, and if they use sugarcane for making perfume, they can rake in the money by selling it to Redwater City and Fallen Dragon Ridge. The prince is blown away by how little it costs to produce the perfume. It's just a few crushed flowers, herbs, and ethanol, and yet the profits are pretty sweet. On top of perfume, they can also churn out white wine and white sugar. Even though they might not fetch as high a price as perfume, they'll still bring in some much-needed cash in bulk. With his mind made up, he gathers all the city's merchants the next day. Once Merchant Hogg downs some wine down, he raves about the top-notch quality of the product. Margaret's also taken aback by the wine's punchy flavor, but she's more interested in discussing the perfume business deal, so she dives right in with her questions. She then takes the chance and leans towards the prince to drop some secret info he requested. It seems that not much has changed since Everwinter fell to the church. The Kingdom of Wolfheart put up quite a fight, supposedly halting the church's army at Broken Tooth Castle for about 2 months. Additionally, the King of Dawn reached out to Grey Castle, suspecting the church's intentions to occupy all mainland kingdoms. He proposed an alliance to expel the church forces and cooperate in defeating Hermes' holy city. The prince quickly asks Margaret about the King's City's response to this proposal. In response, she sighs and reveals that under Timothy's advice, Prime Minister Marquis Wyke rejected the proposal. That chubby one sure has some weighty news. He mentions that Timothy is currently occupied in the eastern region with his men, suggesting he might not be able to focus on other matters. There's also word of a large fleet landing in the Seawind region, led by Garcia Wimbledon, wreaking havoc along the shoreline. They've plundered everything in sight, including churches and many merchants from the fjords becoming victims. Margaret adds that numerous refugees have appeared in the eastern regions, with her caravan taking in many of them. These raiders not only stole valuables, but also took lives and burned anything they couldn't carry, which she believes will deal a heavy blow to Timothy, who had just managed to subdue the nobles in the area. The prince is concerned about the refugees and asks Margaret for details. She explains that compared to refugees from Everwinter or Wolfheart, those from Grey Castle are less likely to want to sell themselves into slavery. Prince clarifies that he doesn't want slaves, he just wants to provide food and shelter for those willing to stay in Border Town. When he learns there are around 10,000 refugees, mostly women and children, gathering outside the King's City, he immediately orders his men to screen them. He asks if they need permission from King's City officials to transport the refugees, but the chubby man assures him it's unnecessary, as overcrowding could lead to food shortages and riots in the city. Margaret offers ships to transport the refugees and strikes a deal with the prince, shaking hands to adjust the cost against the steam engines she bought from him. Outside, everyone is offering their food and spices gladly to Maggie, who's about to depart for the fjords. She's teary-eyed seeing such generosity and probably doesn't even want to leave, promising to return very soon. Prince then hands over a letter to her, saying it's for Princess Tilly. The little girl eagerly accepts the mission, pledging to fulfill it no matter what. Nightingale is intrigued that he's reaching out to his sister. He explains he wrote in the letter about his desire for cooperation, and asked her to send a few support-type witches to assist with Border Town's construction. In the letter, he didn't refer to himself as her brother but as the ruler of the western region. Lightning, her best buddy, asks what if the other witches don't let her come back to Border Town. In response, Maggie confidently says she'll fly back without telling anyone. With the deal sealed, our playful girls exchange a sisterly fist bump before parting ways. Prince feels a sense of accomplishment knowing Maggie is now on their side after just a month. As Maggie flies off with her load of products, Prince wishes her a safe journey. Meanwhile, Lily wonders if she's gained a little weight, and Lightning, who's been making her eat all that food, quickly catches on that it's probably her fault. The scene shifts to a sailing ship carrying Margaret and Theo, the representative sent by Prince Roland. Margaret asks the boy if he was born in the King's City, and he confirms that he grew up there before becoming a castle guard. She then asks how it feels to return home, to which Theo responds that he'd rather stay in Border Town because he admires Prince Roland very much. She then teases him, asking what he knows about the prince, to which he stares blankly, unsure of how to respond. Margaret mentions that Prince Roland is an amazing person, but he had a bad reputation in the King's City. She asks if Theo heard the rumors about him, but notes that in Border Town he's nothing like those rumors. He's a well-behaved, thoughtful gentleman with a wealth of knowledge. Theo shrugs, admitting he doesn't know either, speculating that perhaps Prince Roland was hiding his true self all along. As they chat, they finally arrive at the King's City, and Theo is confused by the commotion outside the walls. He asks Margaret about the gathered people there. She explains that these people are currently being fed, but she's uncertain if they will continue to receive food indefinitely. The strong ones will likely be chosen by nobles, while the weak and old might be left behind. Margaret asks if he plans to use his men to advertise and recruit people, but he explains it would be ineffective and draw too much attention. Instead, he suggests she take his men with her and reveals he's already figured out a plan. To get things done, you either deal with annoying officials or hire people known as rats to handle it. Once alone, he reveals to us that in the past when he joined the castle guard, he used to be part of the patrol team, responsible for shady tasks passed on to an underground organization called the Rats. These rats do all the dirty work of the kingdom to keep things in balance. He plans to approach them through middlemen to see if they'll take on the job. As he walks, he notices some girls hanging at the gallows, but soon reaches the middleman who hooks him up with the rats. The middleman introduces Theo to the group, which includes a young girl and someone named Fox. Theo is surprised to see someone from a respected family involved in such shady activities. The middleman explains that Fox lost all his money gambling, sold everything, and ran away with someone else, leaving his wife behind. Theo takes a seat and gets straight to the point. He tells them about the city's plan to reduce food relief for refugees, which could lead to riots. He emphasizes that kicking people out will be harder if unrest grows in the city. The middleman then asks what they're supposed to do next. Theo simply states they need to spread the word that the western region is reclaiming uninhabited lands, and the local lord welcomes refugees. He tells them to make it sound as realistic as possible and insists on spreading the word that mercenaries and fleets will arrive here in 3 days to scare off the people. Another person chimes in, saying that if there are no mercenaries, people won't believe the rumor no matter how plausible it sounds. Theo assures them that mercenaries will come, and someone asks loudly if there really is actually anyone in the western region willing to take them in. The middleman bonks the person's head, reminding him that's exactly why they're trying to lure people to the western region. He tells everyone that his boss is loaded with cash, so they'll all get a fat paycheck if they do the job right. Everyone's pumped to hear this and eager to get started. A boy asks if the little sister will be joining in. In response, she confidently says she doesn't even need anyone's help for this job. The boy reminds her that the king has ordered soldiers and knights to execute witches on sight, putting every woman at risk of being caught by the guards. After all, they'd rather wrongly kill people than let them go. Theo's mind clicks as he remembers the girls he saw hanging at the gallows outside the city. They were all witches. He starts praying for Prince Roland to become king as soon as possible because he's the only one who can clean up this mess. The news of a ship sailing to the western region has already spread, and everyone is considering migrating there. While these two ladies are excited about the prospect of heading west, the little girl notices something on her palm. A black spot beginning to appear. Suddenly, chaos erupts in the tents as people start groaning in pain. A strange disease-like thing spreads over their bodies, and they beg not to die. Outside the church, a horde of people gathers as priests preach about how witches are causing this infection. They promise to eradicate witches, and assure the distressed crowd that the church will not stand idly by. The priest announces that the church has developed a holy medicine. Hope sparks among the people again, but the priest takes his chance and urges them to devote themselves entirely to the church to receive it. The desperate people quickly show their willingness to give everything to the church for salvation, and they do not even bother to question this bastard's words. Back with our duo, Margaret finds it suspicious that witches could be responsible for this plague. After all, the Divine Stone of Judgment can quickly neutralize witch powers. If it weren't for that, the entire region around the holy city of Hermes would have been wiped out long ago. The first victim was found lying by the roadside, covered in those ominous black spots. He looked almost like a corpse. It appears this is the same poison the Pope told to Priest Maine, the one meant to be used over King City. It spreads simply through a rotting corpse traveling through air, and can affect anyone without needing to be ingested. No wonder only the church has a cure for this. These two have no clue about the disease, so they are brainstorming what it could be. Theo mentions that no herbal treatments worked, and their blood turned entirely black for some reason. He reveals that some refugees outside the city, and even those he sent on ships to the border town, have caught the same disease. He explains that due to the rats' selfish choices, they unknowingly put infected people on the ships too. He doesn't blame them though, as he had only informed them about working with nobles of the king's city to relocate refugees out of the city, so they naturally included the infected for the city's safety. Theo tells her he's stopped moving refugees for now, but those ships already sailing might still have infected people. So he tells her to report back to Prince Roland that infected folks are coming their way, so they should get ready. The lady assures she's got it covered since messages spread like wildfire among merchants. Meanwhile, on the boat with refugees, people are feeling sick. We spot the same girl from earlier on board, with another girl giving her water. A man warns the girl not to get too close to the sick girl because the marks have spread to her neck and she doesn't have long. He's convinced they're all doomed, which makes the girl cry. Even some of the crew transporting them have caught the infection. Despite the despair, the lady believes they'll be saved once they reach the western region. A man bursts in, claiming it's all useless no matter where they go. Another man intervenes, saying it won't be useless because they have Prince Roland on their side. The next scene takes us to the border town where Knight Carter is rallying the soldiers, urging them not to let their guard down because Eastern region refugees will soon be arriving. Prince Roland is equally serious about the urgency, especially after learning that there are sick people coming to border town, and he has already prepared for it. Lily has also mastered the disinfection process and is eager to help cure the arriving sick people. Infirmary camps have been set up in advance, and the infected individuals from the ships have arrived. They are escorted into tents where Sister Lily treats them with utmost caution. To prevent fear and maintain safety, the victims are blindfolded so they cannot see Lily, who works diligently behind a counter. Prince has also implemented a system to keep victims from getting close to Lily, ensuring they're treated safely from the other side of a counter. The first patient is a native soldier from the border town who was aboard the ship. The girl, Lily, immediately begins her healing process, with Prince watching attentively. Once she's done, Roland asks if she is finished, and Lily confirms that she has. He then asks the patient how he feels. The soldier initially says he feels kind of good, but then he's absolutely shocked when he realizes it was Prince Roland who spoke to him. The soldier immediately salutes the prince with a big smile on his face, expressing how amazing he feels. Turning to Lily, Prince Roland seeks clarification. She explains that the symptoms aren't typical of the plague. The black spots are from sepsis, causing cyanosis. Even after killing off the Yersinia pestis bacteria, these spots take time to fade back to normal. The prince tells him to gather up the other soldiers and send them about 10 at a time. The soldier nods appreciatively, thanking Nana for her healing. But Prince Roland corrects him, saying it's Lily, not Nana, as Nana deals with injuries where there's bleeding. Hearing this, the soldier quickly shows his respect to Sister Lily, which deeply moves her. It's probably the first time she looks so relaxed and natural, as she usually acts like a stubborn brat. But then again, she turns to her usual stubborn self while blushing slightly. She insists she doesn't need any credit. But Prince Roland teases her, asking why she's blushing so much then. The prince gives her a good old pat, and that's when Nightingale enters the scene, telling them she just witnessed a strange phenomenon. She explains that there were signs of magic in the blood of those people, and the prince is quite startled to hear this. Nightingale continues, describing how in the fog it looked like stars in the sky, something she'd never seen with such small magical glows before. While the prince examines the things under the microscope, he sees these mucus-filled little bugs. Nightingale reveals that since anything related to magic is either caused by witches or something to do with the church, she can bet her life that this is the church's doing, much like those pills. Meanwhile, Lily's bugs immediately attack these mucus-filled pests and start devouring them. The prince also set up a second building where Nana could treat severely wounded patients. He's confident they can handle this epidemic with their two talented girls. He hopes they can soon stand on stage, receiving the applause they deserve instead of quietly healing in those boxes. Suddenly, the prince notices Nightingale dozing off. When he tries to snap her out, she starts rambling about seemingly unrelated things. With a bright smile, she reveals that the witch union will soon have a new member. As dusk settles, we see the same girl sitting on the ground. A soldier kindly offers her some food, and she thanks him warmly. She's still a bit puzzled about having to wear a blindfold before going into the tent. But after getting that mysterious treatment, she and the others are feeling a lot better. Tears of joy well up in her eyes as she's grateful that everything's going okay now. She just wants to keep living like this, because their lives were so tough before, especially losing both her mom and dad. All she wants now is to stay alive with her sister. Well, it seems like one of the girls from these two is a witch, and that is precisely why Nightingale hinted about the new witch joining them soon. Right on cue, she appears behind the sisters. Nightingale introduces herself as a witch, which fascinates the girl, who reciprocates to the gesture and introduces herself as Lucia White, and she immediately expresses her desire to join the Witch Association. Nightingale agrees and offers to take her home, mentioning that Prince Roland wants to meet her as well. Later that night in the castle, we see Prince examining these materials before him, which seem related to Lucia's abilities. Although the specifics of her powers are unclear, she used a cup to demonstrate her abilities. She worries she may have damaged the cup, but the prince reassures her and asks if she can do the same with other objects. Before she can respond, her stomach grumbles loudly, causing her embarrassment. Nightingale smiles and decides to grab some food before diving back into the nerdy stuff. The prince decides to throw a feast for her, and later that night, all the witches gather around the table ready to enjoy the meal. Wendy officially welcomes Lucia into the union, and everyone gathers around her warmly, which melts the girl's heart right away. Wendy offers her some grilled meat, mentioning Anna's skill at grilling, encouraging Lucia to give it a try. Meanwhile, Lightning makes sure to serve her fine wine, insisting she enjoy as much as she wants. Wendy then pats her on the shoulder and tells her she can call on her if she needs anything. Lucia feels deeply touched to see everyone so lively here compared to the harsh outside world. She can't help but feel a sense of warmth, as if she has finally come home. Meanwhile, we're back with the other sister who has just woken up from her nap. Lucia immediately asks how she's feeling, to which the little one meekly replies that she's really hungry. The older sister assures her to wait there, as she'll be right back with the grilled fish Nightingale gave her. Suddenly, the girl realizes she's not on the ship anymore. Her sister explains they've arrived at their destination in the western region, the border town. The witches under the Lord have also cured her, and she reveals they're in the castle right now. She tells her sister that everyone here treats her very well, no matter who they are, and they don't see her as an outsider. She even mentions that this place has things called bathrooms, and Nightingale was the one who bathed her while she was unconscious. While her sister munches on those dried fishes, her sister gladly tells her how things are in the border town. The younger one teasingly asks if she'll be sleeping with the prince now that she's working for him. This gets the older sister angry, and she starts pinching the poor girl, demanding to know who taught her such things. The junior sister quickly spills out that it was their mother who told her, and this is precisely why she never let father take beautiful maids at home. Seems like their father had a reputation as a playboy back in his day. Speaking of parents, Lucia remembers them for a moment and feels sad that ever since they died, she never had anywhere to belong. Now that she can stay here, she worries that her abilities won't be useful to Prince Roland. Even though she can supposedly restore objects, whenever she uses her ability, it often ends up destroying other people's hard work. She even turned the prince's cup into a pile of different substances. It seems like her skill leans more towards reverse engineering rather than restoring objects, but they appears to be using restore term as restoring the stuff to its original form, not fixing the broken. Right now she's worried that if Prince Roland deems her abilities useless, he might just kick both of them out of the castle. The next day arrives, and there are various random objects laid out before Lucia. The prince asks her to try restoring the first one. She gladly complies and uses her magic power right away. Meanwhile, Nightingale can't help but notice Prince Roland's rather happy face today. To which Prince admits he's thrilled because with Lucia's abilities, they might actually make some tangible progress in the smelting and manufacturing industry. He starts delving into technical details that even Nightingale finds a bit snoozeworthy. Once Lucia is done with the first object, Roland tells her to try restoring grapes and steak, and he jokingly reminds her to restore some steam buns before Nightingale devours everything. The girl laughs at their banter and jumps right in to use her powers on them too. When she's done, she admits she's totally out of magical juice. Meanwhile, the prince checks out the steam buns she just fixed up. He explains that after steaming, the gluten proteins go through some irreversible changes in high heat. So even if you grind it back to powder, it won't be as smooth as it was. Despite this, she managed to turn the flour back to its original form. Then he looks at the iron ingot and realizes if her power was just about restoring, it should have turned into iron ore. Instead, it broke down into iron powder and some other gunk. And as for the steak and grapes, there's no change. Seems like she might struggle with organic stuff or composition of living beings. From these tests, he figures her power has two sides to it, and it all depends on what she knows. Nightingale also gives her props for her impressive powers, even though she's not even an adult yet and hasn't been through the whole coming-of-age thing. The prince immediately offers her a job contract, detailing everything it includes. Lucia doesn't pay much attention to the specifics. She's just thrilled to be staying here with her sister, even if she has no clue what her job actually entails. The prince reassures her that her role here isn't just about her ability. The witch union always supports its members, and everyone has unique talents. He's confident she'll find her place. A few days later, they're all in the council room hashing out plans for a battle against the king's city. He warns it's going to be different this time, since they will be fighting this war in an unfamiliar territory, so he tells everyone to be extremely cautious. He lays out the map, pointing to the red square in the middle representing the king's city, and the blue lines representing the canals. He assigns two main tasks. First, to protect the witches and heal the refugees, then safely return them to the border town. Second, to prevent the epidemic from spreading into the king's city. He explains they'll set up a lookout post on a high point outside the city overlooking the ports. The soldiers will disguise themselves as caravan mercenaries to help the cured refugees board ships. Lily is put in charge of curing the infected. Everyone will gather river water, and she'll purify it to distribute to the sick. He stresses two big things. First, everyone boarding the ship needs to have already drunk the purified water. Second, don't ever use boiled water to make the purified stuff. Funny thing is, the dirtier the water, the better. Because that way, it will have more bad microorganisms that will get replaced with Lily's microorganisms during the purification process. He reveals that the epidemic was caused by the church, and the disease started spreading in the king's city. The church claims to have a cure, but ironically refuses to distribute it to the city residents, just because they want to appear as saviors while deceiving everyone. He declares they'll also work to dismantle the church's propaganda. He's confident everything will go smoothly this time, and he's ready to take these guys down for good. It's just a matter of time before he gets to them. Theo arrives at the king's city and tells Margaret straight up that the prince wants to move all the infected refugees back to the western region. He asks her to provide a large number of ships for continuous transport, rather than just one or two fleets, because he is aiming to have all refugees in the border town within 3 days. Margaret calls it ridiculous. Even if half of these people die here, there will still be at least 5,000 left. Transporting them all in 3 days would require nearly 100 sailing ships. She explains that even if they used all the ships in the Chamber of Commerce, it would cost thousands of gold royals. Even the steam engines couldn't cover such expenses, and as a merchant, she's not willing to take such a big loss. Well, looks like the prince saw this coming. So, Theo hands her a letter from our hero, laying out all the details about the cost. Theo also explains that if they can't get everyone out in 3 days, the church might swoop in and things could get messy. After Margaret reads the letter, she jumps straight to the point, asking about the timeline. Theo looks puzzled for a moment, wondering what she means. With a little smile, Margaret politely asks when they need to have all the ships ready to go. Not sure what was in that letter, but it must have been something good to make this greedy fox accept the term so quickly. The scene shifts to the fjords, where the church's outposts are under attack by the witches. Leading the charge is Lady Ash and her squad of sweet little ladies. After spotting the arrows being shot, Ash informs her crew they're anti-demon arrows, so they need to clean up fast. With that in mind, she leaps into the air without warning, soaring high enough to reach the soldiers on the wall. With a single swing of her sword, she wipes them out like it's nobody's business. She continues slashing left and right, cutting down everyone in her path without a care in the world. One of the knights tries to track her with a specially made arrow, but he gets his eye ripped out by a fat black crow who suspiciously resembles Maggie. The other girls come rushing back to join the fight, and Ash rallies her friends, reminding them that once they clear out every priest from the fjords, there will be no one left to mock the witches with their laughable beliefs. Soon after, Ash has wiped out the entire church. A jar of pills rolls across the ground as our black beauty hovers before the knight who lost his hand which was holding that jar. He calls her a demon, a term she certainly doesn't appreciate given the church's persecution of witches. In response, she swings her sword and cuts him down without hesitation. With the area now confirmed clear of enemies, the other witches ask if she's cleared out the entire area too. She smiles and confirms that it's over. She declares that even though the outposts around the fjords didn't house thousands of soldiers or a judgment army, but by eliminating them all, they've carved out a place for their existence and won the battle. Everyone bursts into happiness, celebrating their hard-earned victory. Back at Sleeping Island, Princess Tilly is absolutely thrilled to hear the good news about the successful annihilation of the church, and she reveals to her friend that this news had already been delivered to her by Maggie. Ash nods, noting that Maggie can actually fly faster than ships can sail. She then asks where Maggie is now, to which Princess Tilly reveals that she's already left for the western region without even waiting. Tilly explains that Maggie has made a friend over there, and if it weren't for the battle against the church, she would have already reached Bordertown by now. Tilly admits that after hearing so much about them, she's genuinely curious and wants to meet them at any cost. Ash wonders if she made a mistake letting Maggie stay there, but Princess Tilly reassures her, saying she actually did a great job. The only reason they're able to communicate with the other side is because of Maggie. She also mentions that she has sent her response letter to Roland Wimbledon, and she asks Ash how she thinks she responded. Her friend confidently states that she surely denied giving any witches to him, since sailing the sea itself is dangerous. To her surprise, Princess Tilly says that's wrong, causing Ash to choke on her tea. Tilly explains that she agreed to his request and even briefly introduced the abilities of support-type witches in the letter, and she is willing to send a few witches to Bordertown. Tilly happily states that it's for the sake of exploration and knowledge, and they should strengthen their friendship and move forward together. But still, her friend expresses her disagreement, to which the princess further reminds her that since they both hate the church, forming a friendship with Roland's group is an added strength. She insists that if they are friends, they should be kind to each other. Additionally, according to Maggie's report, a witch can further evolve her abilities through the acquisition of knowledge. By sending witches to study would really help Sleeping Island out. Ash still insists going there would be risky, but Tilly quickly reassures her she won't go until she confirms everything. She also brings up Sister Sylvie's knack for seeing through disguises, whether it's makeup or magical illusions, which means they can easily uncover Roland's true identity. Most importantly, Tilly trusts Ash, and she is sure that her friend will always be by her side no matter the danger. Ash stays quiet, not sure how to convince her, while the princess decides to postpone further discussion until Maggie arrives with her reports. Right now, she's got other important stuff to focus on. Lady Ash then curiously asks what she's talking about, and Princess spills the beans that outside the mainland lies Shadow Island within Fjord's boundaries, a place where most of the magic stones they've acquired come from. Now that the church is out of the picture, Tilly wants to personally check out these ruins and see what they're all about. Upon hearing the mention of Shadow Island, her friend then asks if she is talking about the ruins known as the legendary Ghost Red River. If yes, she explains how these ruins vanish and reappear in the sea, with dangerous currents and sea monsters all around, making it super tricky for anyone to get near. She mentions plenty of explorers have bitten the dust on Shadow Island just chasing after this wild phenomenon, so she's not sure how they'll tackle exploring those ruins. Princess Tilly then spills that there's an outsider explorer chilling right here on Sleeping Island. He's the one who first stumbled upon those ruins, so he is definitely going to lead the path for them. Before we can watch Princess Tilly's journey to the ruins, the scene shifts to the King's City, where we see a few people outside the city walls. These folks appear to be refugees, afflicted by the same curse-like plague spread by the church. Lady Echo feels really sorry for them, because these people are refugees from the eastern region who didn't get the chance to board the ship sailing back to Bordertown, and the church didn't even bother to give them medicine and just threw them out to die. Thin Mustache decides to gather everyone who can still move and tells Lady Echo to take them to safety. She quickly uses her magical voice, announcing that she has come to cure them under the command of the Western Region leader, Roland Wimbledon. She assures the desperate crowd that their ship is at the docks, where people have medicine to cure everyone free of charge. Thin Mustache is amazed to see how her voice is reaching everyone's voice, even though she is not even speaking vocally with words. The people quickly perk up at this news and stand up. Even the lady suffering from illness rises, eager to be saved. She promises to go to the western region if it means being cured. Thin Mustache flashes a pleasant grin and tells everyone they can bring their families as well. A while later, we see a bunch of water skins containing the medicine. The soldiers quickly tell the gathered refugees to drink the medicine inside the bottles, and they will be cured immediately. Without a second thought, the desperate people grab the water skins and chug down the water. As they do, a soldier preaches that the rumor about witches spreading this plague is total bullcrap circulated by the church, which is meant to make people beg and kneel before the church. He tells them that not only did Roland provide the medicine, but he's not even charging a single copper for it. Everyone's stunned and having a hard time believing it, because this just feels too good to be true. But then, one of the seriously sick women says she's already feeling better after drinking that potion, and the marks on her body have vanished. The crowd goes wild with joy, and cheers fill the air as they celebrate their salvation. The soldier then explains that Roland Wimbledon is busy developing the western region and needs a bunch of people to help with farms, building houses, and paving roads. He says those who agree to move there will get food and shelter as compensation. He also promises that everyone will get a job suited to their skills, and lets them know they'll be leaving in 3 days, so they should head to the ships if they want to go to the western region. The crowd bursts into cheers once again, and eagerly says they're ready to work for Prince Roland. Thin Mustache is glad that everything is going smoothly, and what's even more surprising is that Margaret is also helping by arranging ships. Not gonna lie, I'm curious about why she agreed to help and what our boy offered her to make such a greedy merchant lend a hand. Thin Mustache then asks about the wine barrels scattered around. Theo explains that they're used to store Miss Lily's purified water. It's an easier way to get the water into the city since the walls are tightly guarded and shut to prevent mass riots by refugees. He puffs up his chest and proudly reveals that they're using the capital's side doors, which are still open for merchants, and it's all thanks to the links he has with the King's City's guards. Just then, 2 soldiers show up, and Captain Brian quickly asks them what's up. The guard reports that Miss Lightning, who's on scout duty, said someone jumped ship to escape and they're probably a rat hiding in disguise. Well, it looks like this poor rat's escape didn't go too well, and he is now getting grilled by Captain Ironaxe about who he is and who sent him. The guy quickly reveals he's not their enemy. He quickly introduces himself as Hill Fox and claims Theo knows who he is. Well, it seems like it's actually the same guy Theo met before, and back then, he was introduced as a gambler who lost everything in gambling. Right on cue, Theo shows up and fills Ironaxe in, saying that Fox is a newly recruited rat who was supposed to spread information. Theo didn't expect him to infiltrate the masses and risk getting infected, so they're curious why he'd risk his life for some intel. Fox quickly admits he's already figured out that everyone here is working for Roland Wimbledon, not Timothy. That's when Theo decides it might be best to get rid of this guy, since he knows too much and could pose a threat to their plans. However, Fox quickly insists that he's also willing to work with Roland. Ironaxe isn't buying it though. He definitely doesn't want to trust a rat who's already been working for Timothy. But Fox quickly ups the ante, declaring that he's actually an enemy of Timothy. Suddenly, a little bottle falls out of Fox's pocket, and Theo is quite startled to hear that he's actually an enemy of Timothy. Theo bends down to grab the suspicious-looking bottle, and Fox quickly claims it's the church's holy medicine, which he took from the black market for a high price. He then quickly expresses his desire to join Roland's crew, because he also wants Timothy crushed as well. Thin Mustache asks Theo what he thinks about the situation. Theo explains that when he's not sure what's true or not, he usually goes with the safest bet, which here means deciding to kill Fox. Right at that moment, Nightingale joins the scene and tells Theo to leave it to her to figure out whether Fox is lying or not, because she is a living, breathing lie detector. In a few moments, Fox spills everything from the beginning. He clarifies that he didn't go bankrupt from gambling, nor did his wife cheat on him. These are just tall tales. In fact, he used to be part of the Pigeon Hat, a circus group that performed in the capital's inner districts. The group wasn't very large, but they were a tight-knit team, and Fox met his wife during that time. After they got married, they saved enough money to buy a house in the capital. But everything was destroyed when Timothy began his witch hunt. Under his harsh rule, the patrols went nuts looking for suspects, and Fox's wife was captured on flimsy accusations of being a witch. Later, Fox thought he could bribe the prison guards to free his wife, or at least get a chance to see her. But those filthy, greedy bastards just took his money and still wouldn't let him see her. They promised he could pick her up later, but when he finally got the call, she was already a mangled corpse. From then on, Fox swore he'd get justice for his wife. But the guard responsible for her death got off with just 10 lashes, and all Fox got was a measly 3 gold royals as compensation for losing his wife. If that's not rubbing salt in the wound, I don't know what is. So, Fox's sole purpose in life became seeking revenge on Timothy. He rallied support from his friends in the circus group, and since they weren't exactly battle-hardened, they used their skills to infiltrate various underground organizations. They gathered intel on Timothy and spread it to his enemies. While doing this, he also met Theo and kept tabs on him, who was supposedly working for Timothy to get rid of refugees from the city. But Fox eventually discovered that Theo was actually working for Roland. So here he is, still tied to the chair, insisting that he's eager to join Roland if it means taking down Timothy. He's ready to spill all the juicy details he has about Timothy to make it happen. Once the guy is done speaking, Theo turns to Nightingale and asks her to take on the matter. She quickly reassures him that Fox is being truthful, and there's nothing dishonest in what he's saying. However, she's not sure if he'll actually be useful to them. While Theo is still deciding whether to keep Fox around, Fox is amazed by how Prince Roland is letting witches live and saving so many refugees. He wonders if Timothy had been as kind-hearted, his wife might still be alive. Nightingale smiles, seeing that Fox isn't put off by Roland's unusual behavior. So at the end, they decide to let him join them, and quickly untie his hands. Theo tells him to stick with him and help out around the city for now. Theo is back in the same hotel, where he bumps into Black Hammer again. The big guy is thrilled the medicine worked, saying that without it, these two fools he's holding would have been dead by now. The little girl thanks Theo for curing the plague, wondering if he's working with the church. Theo keeps his identity under wraps, and claims that the medicine came from higher-ups in the royalty, and the church is just spinning stories about witches causing the plague, so he wants everyone's help here to cure all of the commoners. Black Hammer perks up at this and asks if Theo's client really let them sell the medicine. Our boy Theo confirms it and explains that his client is furious with the church for deceiving the public. He's worried that if the church keeps spreading propaganda and turning all the commoners to their side, they'll end up ruling the whole kingdom. That's why Theo's client, who is our boy Roland of course, wants to cure all the city's commoners. Theo tosses out a pouch of water containing Lily's purified water, and tells the rats they can sell it for 10 silver, with 40% of the cut going to them. The guys perk up at the prospect of making some quick cash. Theo explains that he smuggled nearly 5,000 to 6,000 worth of medicine, so if they sell it all, they could make some serious money. He also points out that he knows they might try to sell the medicine at an even higher price. To drive his point home, Theo slashes his dagger across the desk and warns them that his client doesn't forgive those who try to play dirty, so they'd better steer clear of scamming others for their own gain. He also tells them not to sell the stock all at once to avoid scalping, and that it's their problem from now on. Then he asks one last time if they're up for the job. Hammer stays quiet for a moment, then grabs the dagger and confidently says he's all in. After hearing the response, Theo quickly informs him that the medicine will arrive at the inn in 2 days by sunset. The next scene takes us to the church, where people are lined up before a priest. One guy sits down over his knees and informs the priest that his whole family has caught the plague and he desperately needs the holy medicine. He explains that he got ripped off by those black market rats when he tried to buy medicine, and now all he has left to offer is a little egg. The priest takes the egg, but not before giving the guy a stern look. He tells him he'll be punished for not trusting the church and trying to buy medicine from the shady black market. Then the priest orders him to stand up in order to seek forgiveness. The priest tells him that he'll have to devote the rest of his life to the church. The guy quickly agrees, saying he's ready to dedicate his life right away. Suddenly, another guy rushes in and tells the priest there's a report about someone smuggling the sick out of the city. The news comes as a great surprise to the priest. Shortly after, we find a priest grilling this guy Needle Eye, who claims to have even juicier news. The priest promises this man that if his information checks out, he'll be rewarded with the holy medicine for his help. Needle Eye then quickly explains that there are empty ships at the commercial river outside the city specifically for shipping the sick. What's even more blasphemous is that they have a way to cure the demonic plague. He says the soldiers had the sick drink some strange water, which made their black spots quickly vanish. These soldiers from the western region are also offering food and shelter to anyone who moves there. To make things worse, there are witches among these people. The mention of witches rattles the priest to his core, and Needle Eye confirms he even saw one flying through the air. One priest grits his teeth at this revelation, while the other asks how many people are on their side and whether Needle Eye is sure they're mercenaries employed by the merchants. Needle Eye kind of confirms it, saying they weren't wearing any armor, didn't have horses, and were armed only with wooden spears, and claims that there are probably fewer than 100 of them. The priest tosses a bottle of medicine towards Needle Eye, who after seeing his reward coming at him, quickly adds that there are also rumors this whole thing was organized by the ruler of Border Town, who's looking to develop his land. The priest gives Needle Eye props for the info, but before the poor guy can even enjoy his reward, his throat is pierced by a dagger from behind, leaving him writhing in pain, and the attacker is a shady figure in a robe. After Needle Eye is dead, the junior priest asks his senior if he really buys the stuff Needle Eye was saying. The senior priest says he'll need to check it out, but suspects there's some truth to it. He plans to put 2 scouts on the city walls to figure out what's going on. The priest gives the mission to his junior, instructing him that if there are indeed mercenaries and witches at the docks, he'll need to buy up all the medicine the rats are selling around town. He is afraid that if the people from Border Town continue spreading their cure, nobody will bow down to the church anymore. As for the witches, the priest decides to leave that task to a mysterious figure known as Faceless. It turns out Faceless is no ordinary person. When the priest tells him to return to his true form, the old man quickly transforms into a stunningly beautiful woman, radiating the undeniable beauty and grace of a witch. It seems she has a particular fondness for the priest, and assures him she'll take care of her part of the job. Back at the city walls, our party is doing a great job getting all the refugees out. Nightingale lets Lady Echo know that the operation has been a success so far, and everyone should be able to catch the ships by sunset. Lady Echo seems a bit distant. When Nightingale asks what's on her mind, she says she's just in awe. She explains that before she was sold to the capital, she went through a lot of hardships. She thought people in Grey Castle were especially cruel because she came from the deserts, but she's realizing that they're not so different from the people in Iron Sand City. In response, Nightingale reminds her that there are good people too, and points to Roland Wimbledon as a shining example. Sister Echo then asks if Nightingale really thinks the prince can change things. She believes it doesn't matter if people come from the mainland, the deserts, or if they're witches. She just wants everyone to live freely and happily. Nightingale gives her a reassuring smile and says she hopes the prince's strange inventions and weird weapons will make a difference. Lady Echo jokes about how much Nightingale trusts him, but Nightingale just smiles back. Echo shares her own faith in the prince and looks forward to seeing the southern region in peace once again. Meanwhile, Iron Axe is up on the wall. While keeping a close watch upon everyone, he can't help but notices that the rat organization is getting ready to surround them. Theo explains that this was to be expected from the start, as these underground rats are pretty lowlifes, who are not known for keeping secrets to themselves. He's sure they're keeping an eye on them under orders from someone higher up. Iron Axe just shrugs off the concern, saying he doesn't care about any random spies in their camps, but just doesn't want their medicine sales to drop. Theo reassures him that he's keeping a close eye on his crew handling the drug sales, so he won't be around to say goodbye as they head off to the border town. Captain Iron Axe gives a sweet smile and says not to worry. They'll catch up when the prince himself comes to claim the capital. As night settles in, we see that witch again, keeping an eye on the crew. She seizes her chance, lunging at one of the soldiers with a dagger. Before he can react, she slits his throat, leaving him dead on the ground. She then takes her clothes off and disguises herself in the soldier's uniform. As Lightning strolls back into camp from her patrol, Wendy's first question is about the current situation. Lightning reports that Iron Axe has already taken the infantry team out to tackle the rats. Lady Echo hands Lightning some water, and Lily grumbles about not having had a shower in days. All she right now wants is to go back to her house and enjoy the luxury of her bubbly home shower. Lightning almost chokes on her water and can't help but tease Lily for sounding like a spoiled elite, especially since she hates nobles. While the girls are in the middle of their banter, that witch in the guise of a common soldier barges in. She's hoping to blend in without any trouble, but Nightingale cannot be fooled so easily. She quickly appears behind the disguised witch, gun barrel pressed to her head, and demands to know who she really is. The witch tries to keep up her pretense, claiming he is Ford, just in charge of patrol. But Nightingale's not buying her crap, quickly pointing out that she's never seen a man with magic inside him before. Nightingale figures this guy isn't just any man. He's either a witch who sneaked in or a really rare male witch. Either way, she's sure he's not the Ford he claimed to be. With her cover blown, the witch decides to go on the offensive. She lunges at Nightingale with a dagger, but Nightingale dodges easily. The witch then turns her attention to Lily, aiming to stab her. Wendy jumps in front to protect Lily, and that woman swings her dagger right away. Nightingale takes action and fires a shot that hits the witch square in the chest. The witch collapses with the single bullet, and as she falls, she reverts to her original form. As she lies on the ground, taking her last breaths, she's overwhelmed by memories of Priestess Heather, who took her in and gave her the name Afra. The recollection brings tears to her eyes. Meanwhile, everyone rushes to Wendy, checking if she's injured. Wendy assures them that she's completely fine, and that the dagger didn't even touch her. It turns out she was wearing some armor made by our hero, which likely saved her from a serious cut. Meanwhile, Lily is still shaken and on the verge of tears, visibly terrified from the close call. She then lashes out at Wendy, telling her not to rush into danger like that again. Wendy comforts Lily by patting her on the head, explaining that she was just caught up in the moment and jumped in front of the blade to protect her, instead of using her wind magic. While they're chatting and comforting each other, Lightning wonders why the witch attacked them in the first place. It doesn't make sense to her why a fellow witch would turn against them. Nightingale steps in and tells Lightning that this woman isn't like them. This night is the last night for everyone here before heading to the border town. And later that night, the rats tried to launch a major sneak attack. It was anticipated, and in the end, Our first army had 1 soldier killed and 4 wounded in the aftermath. The muskets kept firing, and the battle ended without close combat. The rats scattered into the night, and with our party's journey due the next morning, there was no need to pursue them. The 4 wounded soldiers received first aid from Lily, and their bleeding was stopped. They also found the soldier who died at the hands of the witch in a field. He was the soldier who died far from home, so he was given a respectful burial, and everyone expressed deep respect and mourning. Because of that one loss, the First Army's debut battle on foreign soil wasn't a success, but it wasn't a failure either. With heavy hearts, everyone prepares for their journey. Back on the sea, Lady Tilly is finally venturing out on her journey with this traveler. The blonde guy explains that there are countless islands in the bay, and no one has been this close to their border before. The further east they go, the stranger the weather becomes, and the islands stay the same, so he's not sure how peculiar they might get. Princess Tilly asks if he is implying that he never had been there before, despite his reputation as a renowned explorer. Few have dared to cross Inferno Island and continue east, and this blonde is allegedly one of them. The blonde laughs it off, saying those are just exaggerated tall tales he's heard about him many times before. While lighting up his cigar, the blonde explorer explains that brave souls from the bay head east every year. It's tough to discover something new because of violent hurricanes and sudden fogs that make sailing really difficult. Meanwhile, Ash reveals in her thoughts that this great explorer went missing 2 years ago. A lot of people thought he died in an accident, but he was actually at Slumber Island. He made naval maps and set out to find other ruins. Lady Tilly has decided to work with him to explore the ruins, and ever since she is working with him, this guy has never talked about the 2 years he was missing, and Tilly hasn't mentioned it either, even though she likely knows about his past. Meanwhile, Tilly explains that the hurricanes around here are actually quite terrifying. The adventurer agrees, adding that witches are absolutely amazing. He mentions that if it hadn't been for a witch named Molly, they would have been goners. Suddenly Molly's fishing rod gets hooked, and she exclaims that there's a big fish caught on her line. The adventurer is still amazed by how Molly summoned that huge shield yesterday to protect their ship. He notes that his crew has stopped resenting witches because of it. So, in a way, the hurricane turned out to be a blessing. He reveals that he's always thought witches would make the best explorers in the world. Tilly happily states that there's already one witch who's known as the greatest explorer. The adventurer seems to agree, and it sounds like they might be talking about lightning. Meanwhile, Molly hooks another fish, and this one looks even bigger than the last. The guy standing nearby is absolutely stunned by what's about to come out of the water. As soon as Molly turns around, a weird sea monster with thousands of sharp teeth lunges at her, aiming to devour her in one gulp. But Ash is quick to act, diving in with her giant sword and slicing the monster clean in half. She tells everyone to back off, then charges forward with her sword, slashing the remaining monster with lightning speed and killing it in one swift strike. After dealing with the sea monsters, Ash checks in on Molly to make sure she's okay. Molly reassures her that she's fine. Ash then turns to the adventurer, asking about these monstrous sea creatures. The adventurer explains that these monsters are legendary sea devils. They're notorious for disguising themselves as regular fish, just so they can trick the fishermen to pull them aboard. There's a myth that if they eat humans, they grow arms, but it's all just hot air. In reality, they're known as demons. Tilly's eyes widen in shock at the mention of demons. Just then, one of the crew members notices that the fog has started to surround the area. The man, who is known as Thunder by the way, quickly shouts for everyone to lower the sails, because they're entering the phantom waters. Well, come to think of it, Lightning's dad is named Thunder too, and he's an adventurer just like her. Seems like we have finally found Lightning's father. Meanwhile, Thunder explains that as they get closer to Phantom Island, the same kind of demons they just hunted are going to pop up in even greater numbers. The fog, rocks, and other creatures make this place feel like a ghostly battlefield, which is why many explorers come here but few find the entrance to the ruins. Luckily, they don't have to worry about any of that right now, because Molly's jelly-like pet is guiding them safely. Thunder is once again amazed by how, no matter how chaotic the region gets, the pet always warns them of any danger ahead. Ash then asks if all of these islands are underwater, and Thunder confirms that they are, just like Slumber Island. However, the tide rises and falls much faster here, about once every half a month, and the speed is incredible. It's like there's a huge hole at the bottom that's sucking up all the nearby water. Thunder thinks the whole bay's wave activity is tied to this place. If they're lucky, they might see the main island popping up from the water. Princess Tilly asks why they don't just wait until the tide's all the way down, so they won't have to worry about hitting any rocks while sailing. Thunder replies that they can't wait because, when the tide goes out, they won't be able to see the Crimson Spectre River, which is the only way to get to the ruins. He points out a strange red hue in the water, and even the ladies are curious about it. Thunder explains that these are cardinal scale fish, unique to the Phantom Islands, and they'll soon see the Crimson Spectre River in its full glory. Princess Tilly lights up when she sees a huge swarm of fish. She finally gets it. The Crimson Spectre River isn't a real river at all, but just a bunch of cardinal scalefish swimming together. It makes it look like there's a crimson river below. Tilly asks why this happens. Thunder explains that it's because of the main island. Apparently, the island is shaped like a pyramid with a big hollow space inside. The fish lay their eggs there, and when the tide drops and the island starts to show up, the fish, sensing the change, go nuts and rush out. As long as they stick to the Crimson Spectre River, they'll make it to their destination. After sailing along the Crimson River for a while, the majestic Phantom Island finally comes into view, leaving everyone in awe. One of the crew guys quickly ties up the boat to a boulder. As everyone hops out, Princess Tilly asks if he's the one who set up the posts for parking the ships. Thunder explains that the posts were already here when he first found the place, and they were probably put up by whoever built the ruins. Lady Ash then asks where the ruins are, and Thunder says they're right above them, so they'll need to head up to reach them. As they walk through the spooky place, Thunder warns everyone that there are booby traps meant to keep looters out. But since the traps have been submerged for so long, he guesses they might not work anymore. The only issue is they have a long hike ahead, so they need to be careful not to run out of stamina. Princess Tilly seems pretty creeped out by the eerie pathway. Seems like Tilly isn't a fan of the dark. But luckily, Lady Ash has always had her back and is ready to guide her through the shadows once again. After crossing the narrow pathway, they finally reach a door. When they open it and step inside, they get their first look at the library from within. As Tilly starts exploring, Ash quickly tells her to stop, warning that it might be dangerous. But Thunder reassures them, saying they don't need to worry because he and his team have already explored this place before. He points out that there's nothing much in here except some stone tables and chairs, because they've already collected all the magic stones, which were scattered all over the floor, about 30 in total. Plus, other explorers have been through here too, so he's pretty sure the place has been cleaned out. But it looks like Tilly isn't giving up. She spots something secret on the wall and starts ripping it off. To everyone's amazement, she uncovers a huge magic stone embedded in the wall. Ash quickly decides to pull it out, but Lily tells him not to. Instead, she approaches the crystal, and crimson magic energy begins to radiate from it. As the energy intensifies, red energy starts bursting out of the crystal. That's when Thunder realizes that Tilly might be trying to unlock something that only witches can activate. The other crew members are completely clueless about what's happening, and before shit takes turn for the worst, Lady Ash steps in, grabs Tilly like a toddler, and starts running out of the mess. At the same time, a staircase suddenly drops down to the ground from above, supported by some sturdy chains. Thunder's mind is hit by a bolt out of the blue as he sees the staircase before his eyes, probably leading to a secret room. Everyone quickly ascends the stairs, and when they reach the top, Princess Tilly finds another stone embedded in the wall, and this one looks like an ice crystal you will find in the Everwinter Kingdom. Thunder is also amazed and points out that a stone this size could be worth a lot on the market. Tilly assures him that he'll get his share of the loot, just as they agreed. After walking around a bit more, they realize this new place is an abandoned living space. There are some books here too, but even Tilly, who's usually pretty sharp, has trouble reading them because the language is unfamiliar. She decides to take the whole treasure trove of knowledge with her, as they had planned. Thunder then checks out the telescope, but all he sees is pitch black. It's probably because it's broken. Princess Tilly calls Ash over to help move a heavy bronze plate. When Ash pushes it aside, they discover another stone underneath. Tilly immediately reaches out to it, and the stone reacts by glowing with a thick crimson light. Princess tells her friend that the stone is continuously drawing in her magic, and quickly Ash tells her to step back. But the princess reveals that it's already too late, and insists she just needs a little more time to finish the process. Things take a turn for the worse as the ground starts shaking, and Thunder begins coughing badly. His eyes fall on the telescope again, and out of curiosity, he makes a bad mistake of looking through it, which leaves him absolutely boggled when he sees a huge door that seems to be connected to the depths of hell itself. Back in the border town, we see the prince holding a letter sent by his sister and delivered by our little pigeon girl. In the letter, Princess Tilly writes that since his brother is also helping the witches, it's clear that the church has become their enemy. She reveals that she's a witch too, which might not surprise him since it's the only reason the other witches trust her. In a nutshell, she's glad that he's earned the witches' trust with his kind heart, instead of treating them like tools, unlike those nobles. She's also excited about all the inventions he's made. As a gesture of goodwill and to build a strong relationship between both parties against the church, she's included a list of supportive witches in her letter. He can choose those he needs the most and have Maggie let her know. She also warns him she won't be sending more than 5 witches, so he'd better sort out a good transportation plan. The church is greedy, and will eventually try to take over all 4 kingdoms, so she hopes he's ready to fight them when the time comes. She'll also give full support to help push back against the church and make a world where witches aren't discriminated against. With that sweet note, that's how the letter wraps up. The prince thanks the pigeon girl for delivering the letter and tells her that lightning has already gone to the king's city with the ships and should be back in a few days. In the meantime, she can either hang out with Nana or Leaf if she wants to play, or she can take a bath and get some rest. Just as he's getting back to his work, he's jolted by a commotion outside. He's freaking out, hoping his territory isn't under attack. But when he looks outside, he sees the chemistry lab is on fire. The prince rushes to the lab, and when he gets there, the lab assistant begs him to save their teacher, who's really hurt and might not make it. Roland calms everyone down, saying he's already sent someone to help and they'll be here in a few minutes. In the meantime, he wants to check on the teacher. The old alchemist's face is badly beaten up, and both Knight Carter and the prince have a hard time swallowing their shock when they realize his injuries are from the acid released by the explosion. The doctor says they've already done some first aid and stopped the bleeding, but she's worried his injuries might be beyond help. Not wasting any time, the prince quickly tells his guard Sean to bring Nana in as soon as possible, and Sean responds immediately. The prince decides to check out the scene with Carter and reminds the guard again to bring Nana back quickly. They walk into the lab, and it's a total disaster. The prince tells Carter not to touch anything unless he's wearing anti-corrosion gloves. The prince notices a bottle nearby and finds it odd that it's there. He picks it up and realizes it looks like a bottle of spirit from the village market, with less than half left. He wonders if this mad alchemist might actually be a booze-loving old coot, just like our Rick Sanchez. Just then, the soldier arrives and announces that Nana has arrived. Without wasting any time, the prince directs Nana to tend to the alchemist's injuries. Nana confidently declares that small wounds like these are no problem for her. She activates her abilities, and the alchemist's face begins to heal. The skin on his fingers, which had been severely damaged, starts to recover and come together. It's pretty surprising that Nana is actually healing the alchemist's missing fingers, especially since she wasn't able to do this before. Even the soldier is a bit puzzled because there were 3 fingers missing before, but now everything is healed up. The prince asks Nana since when she's been able to do this. In response, the girl explains that she discovered this ability about a week ago. She was experimenting with chickens and realized she didn't need the severed limbs to patch them up once again with body. If she focused enough magic, the lost limbs would slowly grow back by themselves. She proudly mentions that she can pull up this miracle thanks to what the prince taught her in class about the human body being composed of cells. Injuries or amputated limbs are like lost cells, and since magic can fix these losses, she was sure that it should work for amputated limbs too. It's a bit mana-draining task, but growing back a finger is manageable, while regenerating an entire arm is more challenging. Once the alchemist is fully healed, he opens his eyes and jolts awake. He quickly reports that he has finally created what the prince assigned him to make. Curious, the prince asks if he's talking about mercury fulminate. The alchemist confirms with a frantic yes. He explains that the missing catalyst turned out to be alcohol. At first, he tried dozens of different ingredients, but none of them worked. After this streak of bad luck, he bought some alcohol to lift his spirits, and remembered from the chemistry book that alcohol is an organic product and an important ingredient for some reactions. He extracted the alcohol from the spirit and conducted a new test, which surprisingly succeeded on the 6th try. He rambles on about some scientific details that aren't crucial right now. In a nutshell, while experimenting with alcohol, he accidentally had a blast, not the fun kind, but a pretty brutal one. Prince is pretty happy for the discovery, but he is also pretty sad and tells the alchemist to don't pull these kind of risky stunts for the next time, because he is not Rick. The prince tells the old alchemist that if it weren't for Nana, he'd be dead by now. The alchemist's eyes light up in amazement, and he asks if witches can heal wounds caused by experimenting. When he hears the answer, he goes completely wild with joy, excited that he can now experiment without worrying about dying. The prince and Nana are a bit lost on how to handle the frenzied old man. But then, Roland's mind starts racing about their successful experiment, which leaves him grinning from ear to ear, because he's got a great idea for making a bullet cartridge's primer, all thanks to the mercury fulminate discovery. But before he can dive into his exciting experiments, the prince has some boring ruler duties to handle, and he's not too thrilled about it. Just when the prince was hoping for some free time to experiment, a letter arrives from Longsong Fortress about a plague hitting the entire fortress. He also has to check in on Anna and the smith's shop. After finally managing to find some time, he sits down to respond to his sister. Meanwhile, the ships from the king's city have finally arrived. In his letter, the prince writes that he's thrilled about their alliance and is determined to destroy the church at all costs. He promises to expand his territory to allow witches to live freely, and is excited about the new witches arriving next month. He's also mapped out a safe route from the fjords to the border town to avoid the church and ensure a secure journey for the witches. He assures his sister that he'll teach the witches the basics once they arrive at the border town, and every witch who evolves will boost their chances of defeating the church. Lastly, he includes the names of the 5 witches he's picked, and hopes to see them soon. The first is Lotus, with earth formation powers. The second is Cande, specializing in state preservation. The third is Evelyn, with alcohol transmutation. The fourth is Honey, a beast handler. And the fifth is Sylvie, known as the Eye of Magic. Once he finishes the letter, he tells Nightingale to get some rest, as everyone is exhausted from the trip to Longsong Fortress to fight the plague. It seems Nightingale is still troubled by something, so the prince asks if it's about the witch she killed in the king's city. Nightingale admits that she didn't want to kill her, but the witch was radiating such intense malice that she knew the only way to stop her was to take her life. The prince reassures her, saying that shit happens, and it's not her fault. He explains that since she was raised by the church, she likely saw everyone as traitors, and changing that mindset would be extremely difficult without years of interaction. Not only that, he also gives her credit for saving Wendy's life. Nightingale nods and acknowledges that she's done her best to save her other sisters, and that's what matters to her. Seeing her resolve, the prince is fascinated that she's moved past it instead of dwelling on it. Then Nightingale tries to ask a question, and the prince asks what it is. She asks if he's been doing anything with Anna while everyone was away in the king's city. The question catches the prince off guard, and he meekly asks what she's implying. He explains that he's been busy with the refugees and hasn't had much time alone with Anna, so he hasn't been clapping with her. It seems he forgot that Nightingale can see through lies, and she isn't shy about pointing that out. Then, in a surprising move, she kisses him deeply. After their intense lip lock, she says that if the prince wants to be with Anna, she's okay with it. All she wants is to stay by his side. The prince, completely embarrassed, blushes and smiles faintly. With those final words, Nightingale begins to dissolve into her fog, leaving the prince alone. The scene shifts to Anna, who's busy prepping some mushrooms. As she's walking around, Nightingale suddenly pops up behind her. Anna offers the mushrooms to Nightingale and explains she's making snacks for the prince. Maggie picked these bird-kiss mushrooms from the misty forest today, and they're super fresh. Since the prince has been working so hard lately, she thought some snacks would be a nice treat. Anna asks if Nightingale wants to try some once she's done. Nightingale asks if Anna can show her how to make them, and Anna's all too happy to teach her. The two ladies get into their cooking groove. Anna places the mushrooms on a plate after cleaning them, with some dip sauce to bring out their flavor. She grills them until they turn a golden color, and they both enjoy their cooking time together. While they're cooking, Anna asks her senior if she's missed the prince. Nightingale goes silent and looks pretty embarrassed. Anna reassures her that she's not the only one who missed him, because everyone who went to the king's city felt the same way. Noticing Nightingale's unusual behavior, the junior asks what's wrong. Nightingale just says it's nothing but admits that she missed him too. Anna then points out that if she were in Nightingale's place, she'd be dying to reunite with the prince. Nightingale gets a bit somber hearing this, but then Anna snaps her back to the moment, reminding her that the mushrooms are burning. Once they're done, Nightingale takes a bite and finds them delicious. Anna can't stop praising how amazing these mushrooms are when cooked just right. After finishing up, Anna brings a plate of perfectly roasted mushrooms to the prince. She mentions that Nightingale helped with the cooking but felt a bit awkward, so she didn't come along. The prince's mind flashes back to the kiss with Nightingale, and he's momentarily freaked out. Trying to focus, he grabs a mushroom, still thinking about that kiss, and takes a bite. Instantly, there's an explosion of flavor in his mouth. He goes totally nuts, like he's in a Food Wars anime. The mushrooms are perfectly salted and have a soft texture that takes the taste to the next level. The prince asks if there are a lot more of these mushrooms. Anna says they can harvest more since Maggie only made one trip and brought back a big bag. He mentions wanting to cook some veggies too since he's getting tired of meat. He grabs another mushroom, and as soon as he takes a bite, his face goes pale. He's hit with an overwhelming rush of salt, and tears start flowing involuntarily from the saltiness. Anna charmingly explains that this batch was made by Nightingale, who really paid attention to every step. The prince can tell these mushrooms are from Nightingale, especially because they're a bit clumsy but endearing. He reflects on how he's spent most of his life working on blueprints and never really had a chance to enjoy simple things like this, making him unsure how to respond to their feelings. He puts the plate back on the table, and Anna asks if he'd like to have some more mushrooms another day. He assures her he definitely will, and they were absolutely delicious. A few days later, it's the day of the award ceremony in Border Town, where people will be honored for their significant contributions. The prince reflects on the achievements they've made, like fighting demons, taking on Longsong Fortress, and everything else. He acknowledges that these accomplishments were all thanks to the efforts of everyone involved. These aren't just elites or artists, but ordinary people who made a huge difference. As a token of appreciation, Everyone will receive a generous reward, a special medal designed by the prince himself, along with 100 golden royals and 5 acres of land. The crowd bursts into cheers at the prospect of rewards, while the prince kicks off the ceremony by inviting Iron Axe, the First Army's commander, to the stage. As Sister Echo sings a beautiful song to add a special touch to the ceremony, Iron Axe seems pretty anxious in front of the whole crowd. While the prince praises Iron Axe for his successful missions, like escorting people from the king's city and other heroic acts, Iron Axe is visibly nervous. But as the medal is placed over his chest, the crowd erupts in applause and cheers once more for their commander. While barely keeping his stage fright under control, Iron Axe gives a final salute, kneeling before the prince and nervously banging his head against the floor, thanking the prince for the recognition and rewards he feels he doesn't deserve. As he walks off, Knight Carter and the old advisor notice the genuine happiness shining on Iron Axe's face. The next person called up is Kyle Sichi, the renowned mad scientist who traveled all the way from Redwater City. Everyone is surprised that someone of his stature has come to Border Town after leaving the Redwater Alchemy Center. Prince Roland explains that while Sichi didn't participate in combat, his continuous improvements in firearms played a crucial role in their victories. He also takes a moment to flex the chemistry laboratory flyer, mentioning that they're recruiting people who have completed elementary education. The old man seems pretty annoyed that he was pulled from the lab for this, but the prince reassures him that it's a great chance to get more help for the lab. Once it expands, they'll have a bigger crew called Chemistry 201. The old man's mood brightens, and he starts bowing his head in gratitude. Next up is Nana, who's being rewarded for her healing work. As she steps onto the stage, the crowd starts singing her praises. Everyone thanks her for the times she's healed them, and it completely melts Nana's heart. Overwhelmed by emotion, she reflects on all the hard work she's put in and comes close to tears, realizing she's finally being acknowledged. The prince tells her to calm down and just respond to everyone's enthusiasm. She wipes her tears, stands tall on the stage, and thanks everyone for their generous praise. Once the ceremony wraps up, the prince looks completely worn out from all the speeches and activities. Just when he's about to sink into some well-deserved rest, Nana shows up, puts a finger to his lips, and shushes him. Startled, the prince follows her into his office, where he sees all the witches lined up in the hallway. Lady Scroll steps forward, offering her respects and praising him for his incredible hard work. She struggles to find the right words to express her gratitude. The prince, a bit nervous, listens as the witches explain they've finally found the holy mountain they were searching for. As long as he doesn't send them away, they're more than happy to stay and work with him. The prince shrugs off their flattery, telling them that all he's achieved is thanks to their support, so they don't need to feel indebted. Wendy then steps in, announcing that everyone should head to the dining hall, and the prince will join them soon after changing his clothes. Once the crowd has dispersed, Sister Scroll pulls the prince aside, reminding him that he's been burning the candle at both ends. She notices how tired he looks and suggests he needs to take better care of himself. The prince brushes it off, insisting he's perfectly fine, but his tired eyes give him away. Meanwhile, the witches walking down the corridor are buzzing with excitement about the feast ahead. They're all curious about what delicious offerings await them at the dining table. Back in his quarters, Anna is still with the prince. She thanks him personally, her words failing to capture the depth of her gratitude. The prince, now starting to change into more comfortable attire, casually asks why she's so determined to stay in Border Town. Anna, with a touch of shyness, admits she doesn't have a specific reason, but makes it clear that she'll follow him wherever he goes. She places her head against his chest, seeking comfort and reassurance. While the prince and Nana are getting all emotional, that church guy, whom I forget the name of, stands outside the door, looking forward to discussing some bridge blueprints with the prince. But after peeking through the gate, realizes it's not the best time to interrupt and decides to figure it out on his own. Meanwhile, in the city outskirts at Grey Castle Capital, we catch up with Theo. Fox has brought his circus crew, and he introduces the first guy as a magician who's been undercover in Dreamwater, gathering juicy intel during the naval port barricade. The magician reports that he entered Dreamwater pretending to be an amnesiac, but most people either died or fled. Even the leader, Tanis, was executed by the Judgment Army, and everyone was scrambling to fill the power vacuum. The mention of the Judgment Army grabs Theo's attention. He remembers that this is the church's secret weapon and takes note of the significance. The magician confirms Theo's suspicions. He adds that Tanis's attempt to seize the port failed spectacularly. After retreating to the Eastern District, they were ambushed by the Skeleton Fingers, leaving them with just about 10 people. In a desperate bid to find the church, Tanis and a few of his subordinates set off, but only 2 or 3 of them made it back. They reported that Tanis had a heated argument with the bishop and ended up impaled by the Judgment Army. Theo connects the dots and realizes that Tanis's downfall was likely due to being cut off from church support. The church's refusal to assist him led to his demise. Dreamwater is in serious trouble, and Theo can see how the pieces are falling into place. Man, all this high-stakes political stuff between the kingdoms is a lot to handle, but honestly, who cares? What really matters is watching Roland wipe the floor with everyone. Theo steps in and announces that he serves under Roland Wimbledon and is in charge of gathering reports for him across the kingdom. With his voice raised, he asks if anyone's interested in working for Prince Roland. The whole circus crew gets fired up and makes it clear they're in as long as Timothy is brought to justice. Theo tells them they'll meet once a week at this time and place, and if anyone has urgent reports, they should leave a pot of purple flowers at the door. They'll knock 3 times long, then 2 short. Everyone agrees, and Theo reminds them that a good informant keeps their identity hidden, so they need to keep a low profile. He tells them to cooperate, and they'll make sure Timothy goes down. Theo asks if anyone has anything to add. That's when Fox chimes in, saying Timothy is already on his way back from the eastern region. He shares rumors from the Black Mallet that Timothy seems to be recruiting a lot of rats into his army. The promise is that these rats can become free citizens if they join, and some members of the Skeleton Fingers have gone to the capital to check it out, and it looks like it's legit. Theo quickly realizes that rats can't be real soldiers, so Timothy is probably planning to use those church pills to make them fight, just like they did before. Theo tells everyone to keep a close eye on the rats and report any updates. This will be their first task. The next scene takes us back to the border town, where we see all the refugees lined down, and the person on the counter is taking all the information about each person, and according to their skill set, they are being assigned to a job. A refugee then comes in front of the desk, saying he's illiterate but a skilled woodworker. The attendant starts asking him the usual questions about the job, and the guy answers confidently but nervously. So the receptionist eventually hands him a form to fill out. Just then, Old Man Barov comes from behind, and with his eyes cold as ice, he asks the receptionist why they're doing such a sloppy job. Then, Barov turns to the alleged woodworker and tells him to show his hands. The man reluctantly holds them out. Barov points out that if this guy was a real woodworker, his hands wouldn't be so rough. They should be shiny and tough from handling wood, and stained black from drawing outlines, which is hard to wash off. Plus, the guy keeps avoiding eye contact, which is a dead giveaway that he's faking it. Most people act like that when they're trying to remember something they never actually experienced. The alleged woodworker starts to panic after being exposed. Faced with the punishment of either being sent to the mines or banished from the western region, Barov asks him one last time if he can confirm his story. The man's face goes pale as he realizes the gravity of his situation, and quickly starts banging his head against the floor, confessing that he learned everything by watching his neighbor. The guards take the faker away, and the receptionist, amazed by Barov's insight, comments on his impressive knowledge of woodworking. Barov dismisses the praise, explaining that he picked up these skills during a recruitment drive in the months of demons. Barov advises the receptionist to pay close attention to individuals when they're answering questions. Only those who answer confidently and accurately deserve to be personally evaluated by the prince. He also emphasizes discouraging others from lying by warning them about the severe punishments. Back in the office, Barov reports to the prince that each refugee is expensive, and if they don't work in border town for at least a decade, they won't offset the expense it took to bring them here. The prince reveals his plans, acknowledging that it took 3 days to process the 6,000 refugees. Currently, housing in the town is tight, so he will prioritize the 1,500 skilled artisans first. The other refugees without skills will have to live outside the walls for another 2 or 3 months. The prince instructs Barov to accommodate all the artisans, regardless of whether they are married or not, ensuring they at least get a room. Barov asks what they should do with the spare houses after accommodating the artisans. The prince replies that they should rent them out, giving the refugees a reason to work hard and save money to either buy the house or continue renting it. Prince then asks how many people have left since the ceremony where they introduced the witches to everyone. The old man reports that 0 native villagers and only 6 farm workers have left. Well, it seems like it's a win for our prince, noting that his plan of establishing the theater has convinced many people to accept the witches. However, the old man adds that 110 refugees have left because of their fear of witches, even though they were treated by these very witches. The old man gets all worked up and suggests executing all of them for not showing faith in their prince and to prevent them from returning to the church. But the prince shakes his head, pointing out that the real hardcore church followers were probably among those 300 refugees who stuck around in the capital, even with the plague. They're too stubborn to change their views on witches. All they wanted was to leave, and he is not about to start executing people just because their beliefs are outdated. The scene shifts to the gathered crowd, where the prince unveils an unexpected innovation, which is a bicycle. The core members of the castle look at the strange 2-wheeled contraption with curiosity. Knight Carter raises an eyebrow and remarks that balancing on those wheels seems tricky, and questions how it could ever replace horses. The prince just casually hops onto the bicycle and demonstrates how it works. As he pedals around, he enthusiastically explains that he plans to mass-produce these bikes. He's even called in Sister Soraya to sketch out riding positions so they can teach the townspeople. His goal is to make this new mode of transport accessible to everyone, promising that even common folk will get a taste of this luxury, and it'll cost just a couple of royals. The prince's excitement is contagious, and he's clearly eager to see the bicycles become a common sight in Border Town. Shortly after, Knight Carter decides to give the bicycle a spin himself. He's completely impressed by the sleek design and rides it around with a big grin, asking Sister Soraya if she did the drawing for his riding position. She nods proudly, and Carter's eyes widen when he sees the detailed and handsome painting of himself. As everyone enjoys their time with the new invention, Prince Roland watches with a satisfied smile. He then turns his attention back to alchemist Kyle, ready to dive into their next big project. The prince explains that he's going to need a lot more acid than the lab can currently produce. To solve this, he plans to design a chemical system that will churn out acid efficiently and in large quantities. Kyle looks puzzled, never having heard of such a system before. Roland explains that it will involve multiple reaction mechanisms, with the product flowing continuously as long as they keep feeding it the basic ingredients. Kyle's intrigued but admits it's new territory for him. He's up for the challenge and is determined to make it work. Roland also mentions his plans to expand to 3 more labs by the Redwater River next month and bring in qualified staff to keep things running smoothly. Outside, the old man takes a tumble as he tries out the bicycle for the first time. He dusts himself off, sighing and muttering about how he's getting too old for this kind of thing. Meanwhile, Prince Roland is deep in thought, mulling over the advancements in weaponry thanks to their recent breakthroughs. With the new mercuric fulminate in play, he needs large quantities of fuming nitric acid. Since his current labs can't meet the demand, he's considering asking Sister Lucia for help. Because the only way to win these upcoming wars against the Church, he will need more than a few cannons and firearms. As he's lost in these thoughts, he reaches for some dried fish to snack on. Before he can even get a bite, Nightingale appears and mischievously stuffs a piece of fried fish into his mouth. Her gesture is both unexpected and warmly received, pulling him out of his deep contemplation. The scene cuts to outside where Prince introduces himself to these little kids and congratulates them for completing their basic education and becoming the town's first graduates. The kids are ecstatic to be speaking directly with the prince, and their excitement is off the charts. He praises Karl von Bate for his significant role in their education and announces that everyone will receive a generous reward based on their performance, regardless of their career choice. The kids cheer and celebrate, thrilled at the prospect of a bright future, and start dreaming about their new salaries and the bicycles they'll soon be able to ride. They excitedly discuss applying for positions at the city hall, envisioning a better life ahead. The prince then decides to distribute the degrees, instructing everyone to come forward when their name is called. A girl playfully pushes her friend to take his degree first. The boy reluctantly steps forward, and the prince hands him his degree, congratulating him on graduating. Feeling a surge of confidence, the boy expresses his eagerness to sign up for the chemistry laboratory and follow in the footsteps of Kyle Sichi. Meanwhile, back in the Holy City, the archbishops are in a heated discussion about Roland. Priest Maine is stunned to learn that the plague the church spread was caused by microscopic demons specifically bred to be invisible. He has no idea how Roland managed to cure it, suspecting he might be using witch's magic instead of the holy medicine. They also discuss the long-range crossbows that Roland's forces have, which shoot relentlessly. Priest Maine recalls Priest Tylo mentioning these crossbows before, as he is stationed at Longsong Fortress. This revelation also sheds light on why Duke Ryan was defeated by the commoners from Border Town. The church leaders are both baffled and concerned about Roland's growing influence and capabilities. Another old man in the church is absolutely shocked to learn that their witch, known as Faceless, has been killed. He is certain that Heather will be furious when she returns from the Everwinter capital, because pure witches are extremely rare and very expensive to raise. Scratch that, a pure witch is even more valuable than the Judgment Army. The old man goes absolutely mad upon hearing that Timothy's soldiers ambushed the Longsong Fortress Church and killed the head priest of that place. If you can't recall, this happened when Timothy sent those soldiers to attack Border Town after making them take those church pills. Priest Maine quickly realizes that Timothy just wanted to steal those pills stashed in the church. However, he still can't believe the audacity of Timothy to kill the head of the church. But it is true, as I can remember, Timothy indeed stole those 2,000 pills and fed them to his army of common people to attack Border Town. After mulling over it, Priest Maine quickly understands that Prince Roland is actually planning to acquire this group of refugees as cheap labor. He can arrange for his witches to cure them and ship them to the western region. The old man agrees, saying if they were not fighting Wolfheart right now, the church would put a stop to Roland immediately. And most of all, The witches in the western regions deserve to be swept clean. But Priest Main tells his old fellow to read this letter before getting riled up. The old man is absolutely blown away to realize that a large number of witches have appeared at the bay, and they have destroyed all the current churches. The priests, still in the dark about Princess Tilly's involvement, are puzzled if the witches are migrating from the mainland to the sea. But Priest Main just shrugs them off, saying that they are far away in the ocean and shouldn't affect their grand plans. The current mission of the church is to acquire more land and labor to expand their judgment army. It seems like these priests have finally recognized this once dumb and goofy fourth prince as the greatest threat to the church. Priest Main has decided to lead 100 judgment army soldiers and pure witches to permanently wipe out the western region, and decides to deal with the witches at the sea later. The old man is shocked at the idea of Main going himself, especially since the battle at Wolfheart is still ongoing, and Heather has not returned from Everwinter. But, as if on cue, a soldier arrives with urgent news from Heather. Apparently, a huge fleet has docked at Everwinter, and many enemies are attacking the capital. When the message was sent, 2 city gates had already been lost. Archbishop Heather is currently trying to defend as much as she can, but there are too many enemies, and they are using berserker pills. All the ships are flying the same black flag, the Blacksail fleet of Garcia Wimbledon. The scene transitions to the castle of Everwinter, where Garcia has taken control and captured Heather. Garcia, standing in the grand castle, tells Heather to start praying to her god before she begins her gruesome work. She plans to cut off Heather's fingers and limbs one by one to make her feel the pain and helplessness that the people of Clearwater have suffered. Heather, however, remains steadfast, showing no hint of fear or apprehension. She defiantly asks Garcia if she plans to curse herself with the church's wrath, or if she intends to drift at sea forever without ever docking. Garcia does not seem to like this nonsense talk and simply snaps her fingers. Right on cue, her goons pin Heather to the ground and hold her hand out. They proceed to cut off her fingers with the cold efficiency of slicing cucumbers. As the pain begins to overwhelm Heather, her face twists with agony. Despite the relentless torment, her eyes well up with tears, but she remains determined not to give in. Garcia's soldiers continue their gruesome task, chopping off her remaining fingers, but Heather's resolve seems unshaken even as her body trembles from the pain. Chief Kabbalah of the Sandstone clan looks at Garcia and asks if this is really necessary, since suffering is usually only needed for intimidation or interrogation. Garcia, clearly annoyed, responds with a sharp question about whether Chief Kabbalah even understands how the church tortures witches. Then Heather's chuckle breaks through, quickly escalating into maniacal laughter. She tells them that they clearly don't grasp the church's power or the importance of its work. Heather makes it clear that Garcia has stuck her hand into a lion's jaws and that the church's enemies will be obliterated. But Garcia just laughs it off and says she'll be more than happy to wait for that day to come. The scene opens with Anna happily digging into her ice cream, her enthusiasm as sweet as the treat she's savoring. The prince couldn't help but feel creeped out, convinced that no matter what era they came from, girls always enjoyed ice cream. It turns out the prince had come up with a simple recipe using just sugar, water, yolks, butter, and milk to make the ice cream. Perfect timing, as the other girls soon joined the scene. Maggie walks in with her hair playfully tousled by leaves, and the prince jokes that they must have been looting bird nests again. He pulls out a letter and mentions that summer begins tomorrow, and before she prepares to head back to the bay, he asks Maggie to deliver the letter to Tilly. Maggie accepts the letter confidently. Meanwhile, Lightning remembers that with the end of the month approaching, Maggie will be leaving the palace soon. The prince then gives Lightning a mission, revealing that the map she's looking at is one she drew herself. He asks if she remembers the shallow beach by the mountains. Lightning quickly points to the spot on the map. The prince tells her to take Maggie and fly out there, plant 2 flags at the spot where the beach meets the mountains, and mark it on the map. Turning to Maggie, he explains that if Tilly agrees to send the witches, Maggie will need to guide the ship to this spot, where everyone from Border Town will welcome them with hot air balloons. Lightning perks up with happiness as she realizes that more witches are apparently going to be joining Border Town soon. The prince nods confidently, saying he believes in his sister and that she will eventually join him. Shortly after, we see the balloons soaring through the air. All the girls are absolutely amazed to see that they're actually flying. The prince has named the balloon the Overlook, and Anna gives all the credit to Soraya for helping paint it. The prince agrees, saying the paint's stickiness is exceptional because it needs to adhere closely to the base layer to support such a massive balloon. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure and tension. The prince quickly starts imagining that, since he has acquired DC motors, he can use electrolyzed water to create hydrogen gas. It won't be long before he can build a famous Zeppelin airship. As long as he can find lightweight materials for the frame, a monster like this could soar thousands of meters above the ground. Although the feasibility of dropping bombs from such heights is questionable, It's thrilling to think about invading the church's holy city by land, sea, and air combined. The girls notice the prince smiling, and Lily points out that he's probably excited about the prospect of new witches. The prince keeps grinning, clearly enjoying the excitement of new possibilities. Wendy, meanwhile, is blown away that Princess Tilly and her friends managed to gather so many witches on Slumber Island. The prince nods, adding that Tilly didn't just pull witches from Grey Castle, she also invited witches from the other 3 kingdoms. He even thinks she might have been in talks with the Old Witch Association at some point. Wendy mentions that Kara, their former leader, never mentioned anything about Tilly, but the prince points out that if Kara had revealed Tilly's invitation, no witch would have joined Kara's quest for the Holy Mountain. Wendy agrees, saying that this unexpected turn of events has actually worked out in their favor. They're now living with such a down-to-earth prince while enjoying a pretty luxurious life. Lily, always the arrogant one, chimes in, suggesting that Bay witches might be better since there are so many witches around, making it easier to walk through town without feeling anxious. As their banter continues and laughter fills the air, and that is when Roland's attention drifts to something a bit awkward. He can't help but notice Wendy's rather prominent pair of hooters. Later that day, the prince sits in his office, mulling over the idea that women with larger breasts often experience sore shoulders, and that's why bras were invented. While it's not a well-verified fact, he figures it's worth trying out to create some undergarments. He thinks about how, as Anna gets older, she might face similar issues, and he'd rather avoid the problem of saggy breasts. He starts designing some bras, marking another innovative leap in this old era. The next day, the balloon soars through the sky once again. This time, it carries not only witches, but